Good evening. Welcome back, everyone. Oh my goodness, someone else has invaded the stream.
I don't know where I am. How did I get here?
Yeah. Welcome to the stream, everyone. We have a special guest here this week, of course, the phenomenal PixelPipes. We talk video cards, so you
Uh,
got to show up. I think that's a law. So,
that's
uh,
that's a hell of an adjective you used, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me.
sure. How's everyone doing tonight? We'll see as the chat catches up here and whatnot. While I brush my cat hair out of my face here again. What prompted the stream was that I found a Voodoo 5 5500 recently in the wild. Imagine that, finding a rare video card in the wild. That feels unreal these days. So we chatted and it's like, well, we got to stream about this, right? So here we are.
Well, it was an evolution. We should
Hmm.
start from the beginning
That's true.
because we actually planned this before you got the Voodoo 5.
Hmm. With another card, yeah, that's true.
It was like we were like, okay, we should do another one because it was fun.
Hmm.
Pretty much. What were you going to talk about? We just happened to, maybe 3D effects. That might be kind of fun. And
Hmm.
you had just recently gotten a Banshee.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, well, that'd be a cool card. We had a whole list of games and stuff
Hmm.
like we were thinking about talking about for the Banshee.
Hmm.
And then something happened in between that kind of enhanced our plans, but also slightly disrupted our plans. I won't tell the story. I'll let you, but
Yeah. Yeah, so I went to for the people that follow me on Twitter, you probably saw it, but I went to a pretty large LAN party that's mostly modern games, but you know what? I like being the odd duck out, so I brought the Pentium 3 450 with me just to, be special. Got a lot of attention, including an older gentleman sitting next to me, and he's like, "I think I still have some video cards in my closet." I'm like, "Oh, really?" So he said, "Yeah, I think it's like a
oh.
voodoo card." I'm like, "Oh, really?" So for one of the dinner breaks, something, he went home and came back then with a Voodoo 4 4500 and a Voodoo 5 5500 boxed. And I'm like, so. So we chatted back and forth several hours, and I could tell he wanted to get some cash for these because they're, of course, desirable. So we agreed on a fair price for the 5 5500, which is what's in this machine right now that you're watching. Um, so then we figured, well, we got to stream that because, I mean, I always thought I would never have one. So having one feels like, well, special event, right? So, but
Very special. This is I kind of told you this. Like, if you have to have, I don't want to say if you have to have one 3D effects card, but to me, the Voodoo 5 5500 is the most useful. It is in a way one of the most important cards in their history, and it was their swan song. It
yeah,
was the last flagship graphics card that they managed to release.
exactly. And that's why I thought I would just never get one. I just figured it would just never happen because they're so like I have a hard time. I think all of us that do retro collecting or use it, um, you kind of set a mental limit on how much you're going to spend because you can spend a fortune and get whatever you want these days, obviously. But I can't justify spending. I'm assuming the box for these go for a considerable amount of money. And the fact that here we'll just have this guy creepy looking at us on the camera there. The fact that I got this card, because I'm going to use it. I know that's what you got excited for, Pixel, for the use of me or for using this card for myself.
Right.
Because
And
I'm
it's not
not,
like,
yeah, it's not a collecting piece for me because
yeah,
this is going to get streamed all the time. I'm going to use their comparison videos and everything. So yeah, I ended up just getting 5500 because as much as I would have liked to buy the other one, my retro budget was already strained this month, so it was one of those situations where perfect scenario, and like we chatted about earlier, if you're getting a one card, this is the one to get. So,
right. And for those that don't know, the Voodoo 4 4500 is in the same family, and it almost sounds like they're two different generations. Like, if you don't know anything about the history, you just read the name
mhm.
Voodoo 4 4500, you may assume that came out earlier and then was superseded by the Voodoo 5 5500, but it's really kind of a weird naming scheme for whatever reason. The Voodoo 5 5500 actually came out first, although it was late to come out. It came out in, I believe, around spring of 2000. And the Voodoo 4 4500 actually came out later that same year as a like mid-range option. So that would have been like your around $200 option. which where the Voodoo 5 5500 I believe was around 400,
Mhm.
and it the 4500 was literally half of a 5500.
Yeah. So why don't you lay us a little sick video card knowledge on us here, DJ Pixel Master? But because I think that it was worth mentioning, and I've been reading up on it too, the Voodoo scalable architecture and why that is. And I actually have a little video clip here of the Voodoo 5 55 and running. It'll catch up for you soon here, but below you on the stream now is a recorded video of the Voodoo 5 running. So it kind of gives you an idea, like it has two chips on it, right? So you want to extrapolate on that.
Exactly. Right. So it is two chips, two, as you said, Voodoo scalable architecture chips, otherwise known as VSA 100. And yeah, it was designed from the ground up to be able to do this, to be able to have multiple chips on a single card. Um, and was actually designed to be able to go up to uh, many cores. They actually released professional versions of it. I think with up to I think it was designed to go up to 32 cores, if I'm not mistaken. Someone can correct me on that one. But and Of course there was of the Voodoo 5, the 6000, which was planned to be released but was unfortunately canceled literally right before entering mass production.
Hmm.
And that would have had four VSA 100 chips on a
That is,
massively long card.
yeah.
And So completely impractical, but very awesome in an over the top kind of way.
Hmm.
But it uses SLI technology, and of course, 3DFX kind of pioneered that. Um, they had SLI technology, of course, debuting at least for the consumer side with the Voodoo 2, and that was two physical cards. So you had to, add or purchase a second card, add it into your system, connect them with a ribbon cable, and so on. So this was novel because it was built on a single card. You didn't have to do anything. As soon as you install the driver, it's automatically running the two together.
Hmm.
And as we will show later, it is extremely seamless. It
Yeah.
is probably the best dual chip rendering architecture of any of not just of the era, but probably of all time.
Hmm.
Um, and
Yeah, because I
to be
mean,
honest,
if you didn't know it, you just got this card and you played. You knew nothing about the technology underneath. You just play it. I mean, in my short experience now, just testing some games here, which we'll get to shortly, but it just you wouldn't know it. There's none of the stuttering or micro stuttering or jumping around or anything you might expect with Dual like that, and it's just so seamless that I mean they nailed that one. But the biggest thing was probably that this came out pretty late, right? Because this is a 2000 card, and there was some
yeah,
pretty serious competitors coming out at that time that probably made it easier. So I know that some people kind of made the decision. Oh, Sukra, if he shows up, he bought the 5500, I think, because it was a cheaper option for him at the time, and so that's what he ended up going with. But if you wanted raw performance, then that was kind of like outplayed at that point, right? So
yeah.
Solar said that we'll get to 6000 someday. He believes in us, so we'll see who gets it first.
Yeah, no, I have the box for it.
Hmm.
So I guess I'm one foot in the door
Yeah,
there.
there you go. That's right. There was
Um,
a person who was making the aftermarket boxes, right? The
mhm,
reproduction ones.
yep.
I love when the
Uh,
community comes out with stuff like that. So,
it's really cool.
mhm.
And that's kind of the thing with 3D effects. It's kind of an undying community of fans.
Mhm.
And for good reason. A lot of it is driven by nostalgia, of course, but they were pioneers.
Yeah.
And you can really blame 3D effects for the 3D acceleration
Mhm.
market eventually developing into what it is today. But yeah, going back to the Voodoo 5, it faced some really stiff competition in 2000. By then, NVIDIA had released the GeForce 2 series, starting with the GeForce 2 GTS, which was a significant speed improvement over the original GeForce 256, the very first GeForce.
Yeah.
And They kept iterating on it. They had um, the GeForce 2 Ultra, which was an even faster variant, and then later on the cost reduced version of the GeForce 2 Ti, which was still faster than the GTS, so it was kind of in between.
Hmm.
And any of those cards, even the slowest version, the original release, uh, pretty much walked all over the Voodoo 5 5500,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And if it had managed to come out in 1999, the year before, to go up against the GeForce 256, it would have easily been, either faster or right up there with it.
Hmm.
Um, I should kind of explain to kind of the specs wise a little bit, because the Voodoo 5 and the Voodoo 4 by extension, that chip in those cards was unique for 3D effects as being the first to go beyond just a single pixel pipe. So all the cards before it were essentially, even if they used multiple chips like a Voodoo 2, they were all rendering along one pipeline.
Hmm.
As you can picture it as an assembly line for a pixel on the screen to have textures and lighting and such effects applied to each pixel. You run that, millions of times, millions of cycles per second, and you can fill up a screen with graphics. So one pipeline seems like a ludicrous small amount, but it actually got them by pretty well, and they were among the fastest
Hmm.
for their first two generations,
Oh yeah.
and to some extent still with the Voodoo 3 as well. But the finally with the VSA 100 chip, they moved to dual pipelines. So it was, in a way, they kind of moved away from multi-texturing. So instead of having one pipeline and you could apply, two texture units, you would go back to only one texture unit, but you have two pipes. So increased fill rate and overall more performance, especially at higher resolutions.
Hmm.
And then add to that SLI, which each chip would only render every other horizontal line of pixels. So you
Hmm.
increase the throughput even more that way.
So let me ask you on the, since this is then, I mean, again, we have two chips on the Voodoo 5, right? So it's basically a Voodoo 4 times 2, right? But
Right.
the Voodoo 6 then, who was supposed to come out, there are some examples in the wild, right, that are like engineering ones. So did they sell any at all? Because that's
They never sold to retail at
okay.
all. You had near final. There's multiple revisions out there,
Hmm.
and it gets pretty deep as far as those different engineering samples and revisions,
Yeah.
different levels of finalization.
Because I mean,
Uh,
with three chips on that, right? That was the whole idea, was just keep scaling it. It's like the
right,
software or
four
driver,
actually,
oh, four. The drivers had
four.
to be really flipping good for that to be a seamless experience at that point, right? Because two is complicated enough, but
Right.
four, I can only imagine. Um,
I definitely think with the Voodoo 5 5500 with the
mhm.
two chips, it was kind of the peak of that technology because it
Yeah.
was really seamless that way. When you get into 4, then you get into a little bit of bandwidth restrictions and it gets a little bit more complicated, but it still worked really, really well. It's just that, unfortunately, they were not DirectX 7
Mhm.
fully supporting. They didn't have hardware transform and lighting,
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
which was
Bisolar. I just have someone leaving, so have a good one.
uh,
Sorry, go ahead.
and so they didn't really keep up feature wise with the competition, but they did have excellent anti-aliasing support.
Hmm.
That will be something, we may get a chance to demonstrate that. I
Yeah.
don't know, but it's anti-aliasing for games that were like older.
Hmm.
Um, it was some of the best, like image quality wise, some of the best that you had back then.
Yeah. Why don't we take a quick look at the, because right now I have the Voodoo 5 installed with the drivers you provided me, so I appreciate that. Um, what are some of the settings I should be configuring in the Voodoo control panel here? And of course, I had to put this background because, I mean, yeah, obviously. Um, because we have then, of course, a ton of settings here. I've changed basically
Right.
nothing except increase gamma a little bit for some of this. I think Glide was very dark. I may have to increase it some
Mhm.
more, but
Well, yeah. So if you go into like info shows a lot of useful
mhm,
information as far as even the clock speed there. So you see it runs at 166 megahertz,
mhm,
which is, yeah, around pretty close to what the Voodoo 3 range was running at. But again, it is uh, twice the pipelines,
yeah,
and the memory course runs the same speed. If you head over to the anti-aliasing tab there,
mhm,
So that's where we get into, the uh, 2 sample or 4 sample, and this actually scaled with the number of chips that you had.
Okay.
So if you had a Voodoo 4 4500, you could only do 2 sample.
Hmm.
So you were actually taking advantage of the 2 chips
Oh.
by being able to do the 4 samples. And this took advantage of what 3D Effects called the T buffer. So it was an extra buffer that they could, aside from the frame buffer, that could they could apply effects to.
Hmm.
And you can see also kind of an odd inclusion is they also
Yeah.
have a single chip only mode there. So you could, with just the 5500, basically simulate having a 4500 by
Yeah.
disabling one of the chips, and that might be for troubleshooting purposes or what
Hmm.
have you.
Makes sense.
But
Yeah.
I like it, as far as for my purposes for testing and stuff. I like having that feature in there.
Yeah, for sure.
And then in the overclocking
Ooh.
tab,
Red Danger
you
Will Robinson.
yeah, this is actually not available when you first install the driver. You have to install a separate overclock exe
Hmm.
that unlocks these features. So if anybody remembers with NVIDIA, if they remember the cool bits registry tweak,
Yep.
uh, when you install that, it would unlock the overclocking features that were actually built into the driver. And it would also unlock VSync as well. And that's no different here. As you can see down at the bottom, you do have the option to disable or enable VSync. So if you're um, benchmarking,
Hmm.
you would want to
Oh,
disable that, of
yeah.
course.
Very nice. I should mention as well, quick, that the specs are scrolling now by the machine we're running this on. So I didn't have a faster Pentium 3 machine handy. So, but I did look, and the Pentium 3 700 that's in here now came out in late 99, and this came out in mid early 2000. So, I mean, this is a very realistic setup in that sense. This is not probably maxing out the Voodoo card. If it had more bandwidth in the processor, it could probably run even better and faster. So yes, that will probably happen in the future as well. I'm planning on building something probably more appropriate for that. But beyond that, this is period appropriate. This machine has a P3 700. It's got the Voodoo 5 5500. 6 months later, got a spinning disk in it. Hard drive size might be the only thing that's a little off, if you will. But beyond that, it's got period accurate components.
Yeah.
Sound blaster live and everything. So we'll have a true experience tonight. So.
I think it's an appropriate pairing. I mean,
Hmm.
the Voodoo 5 5500 was not the fastest graphics card in
Hmm.
2000. And, the P3 700 wasn't the fastest CPU either. So they
Yeah.
kind of go hand in hand a bit. I mean, if you had like a top of the line, like 1 GHz plus Pentium 3, you
Hmm.
probably would have gone with a GeForce 2
Yeah, it's
back
true.
then. If speed was like everything.
Yep.
Now, going back to the drivers, if you go up to the top tab up there that says advanced features,
Ooh.
now this is really cool. Now, if we expand the general there,
Hmm.
now you can change the AGP speed. Now I was running at 1x AGP, and the thing with the Voodoo cards is they didn't really support AGP fully.
Yeah.
It was they had it, but it was more almost like just having the physical connector there as opposed to having any of the real
Hmm.
features like AGP texturing or DMA access or anything like that. And so it was essentially like PCI but overclocked to 66 megahertz. So it was still faster than PCI, but not by much in the case of Voodoo.
Now, because Voodoo 3, the PCI and AGP versions are basically identical, right? It's basically just translating the PCI to AGP. If I remember right, there's like virtually no performance difference between the two.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that, the performance level, the Voodoo 3 probably just wasn't there to saturate or go
Yeah,
beyond what PCI could offer.
that's true. Yeah.
You may have edge cases where just having more throughput
Hmm.
by way of the 66 megahertz bus as opposed to 33 will give you a slight speed improvement. And with a really overpowered system, if you compare, because there was a PCI version of the Voodoo 5 5500.
Oh, okay.
If you compare, yeah, and that one's more rare, more sought after because you can put it in more modern systems.
Take all of my money, sir. That's usually what happens. It's like even if the thing isn't better, it's just rarer, more money. That's just
Yeah,
supply and
and
demand.
especially with 3D effects,
Oh
anything
yeah,
3D effects with that, it just skyrockets in price.
yeah.
But the PCI version actually does have a slight performance loss
Hmm.
when the CPU is like overpowered and the games are, able to scale enough.
Yeah, makes sense.
Anyway, if we leave out of that, we head into some of these other settings here.
Lots of goodies.
So you can see we do have some of the settings are a little bit redundant there,
Hmm.
but you can add in like effects like LOD bias and things like that, and
Hmm.
there's even a geometry assist feature there.
Goodness.
Um,
So it's one of these things.
uh,
Like I'm assuming with this card, you would always prefer OpenGL or obviously Glide where possible.
right,
Glide being optimized for this card and everything, of course.
exactly. And then of course you got a lot of that for the OpenGL
Hmm.
version as well.
Yeah.
Now, one of the really cool things, one of the most important advancements with the Voodoo 4 and the Voodoo 5 was support for 32-bit color rendering.
Yes.
That was a huge deal. And they were kind of too late to the party in some ways with that feature.
Hmm.
But if you look, um, let's see, rendered color depth, you can change that to force 32-bit
That's right.
rendering,
But any software or any game that you set to 32-bit will honor that, I assume, right? But
but
should.
not Glide games. And the thing
Oh, yeah.
with Glide is that they were pretty much all the Glide games are pretty much made for older Voodoo cards, like
Yeah.
topping out basically at the Voodoo 3. There's almost, as far as I know, there isn't really any Glide games that do beyond 16-bit color.
Hmm.
So the only way to get 32-bit color is to use that feature right there to
Okay.
force 32-bit color. So you can run like Unreal Tournament in Glide mode. As long as you have that feature turned on, you will get 32-bit color
Hmm. Fascinating.
in Glide mode.
Yeah. With, I assume, some performance that.
Some, but surprisingly, I mean, pretty much any game that I'm running, I'm always using 32-bit color on the
Mhm.
Voodoo 5. I mean, it really is fast at the era of games it was intended
Yeah.
for.
All right. We'll force it. Why not? I'll allow it. Sounds like Tiger Build has the PCI version of the Voodoo 5 there as well. The Mac one. So yeah, that's right. So maybe we should touch on that too. That when a lot of the video cards manufacturers made specific cards for Mac because they use different type of AGP, and also that a lot of the Voodoo card, not Voodoo, a lot of video cards for Mac had that special. I don't remember what they call the connector, but it carries power right to their proprietary monitors. Macintosh and proprietary. That's a odd
Right.
combo, but um,
Yeah. In the case of the Mac version of the Voodoo 5 was PCI had a DVI port on it.
oh,
And the reason that's the reason the Mac editions are even more sought after. So if you look at the tiers, you have the most common one, which is the AGP version, and you
hmm,
have the PCI version, and then above that, in terms of rarity, is the Mac edition PCI with the DVI connection on it. You
I believe it.
can you can flash a PC BIOS, a BIOS of the PC version to that Mac card,
Hmm.
and essentially you have a Voodoo 5 with a DVI port. You can have that digital output, and especially if you're doing capture, and you can have that
Oh yeah.
that pure signal coming off
Hmm.
of the card.
Yeah, and I think that's what Tiger mentioned in chat there that he was going to flash his Mac version that he has, the PC. Excuse me. I think he's going to do just
Yeah.
that. But yeah, I think like Jam mentioned there too, there was an AGP 4X version too. That's ultra rare, isn't it?
Yes. So that one actually never got officially released.
Mhm.
Um, that is as far as I know, it was another one of those kind of like the tail end of the life of 3D effects, and they made it. It's the only version capable of running at 1.5 volt AGP.
Mhm.
So there's different AGP standards, right? And the older one, 1x, 2x AGP was 3.3 volts, similar to PCI, and you have to have a board with support for that to be able to use those cards.
Yeah. So yeah.
Um, but the Voodoo 4 4500 and that unreleased 4X version of the Voodoo 5 were the only cards that supported 1.5 volts. So
Okay.
if there was one advantage to the 4500 is that you can use it on newer motherboards.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but it feels like to me the reason personally I love the Voodoo cards. I mean, yeah, they have like almost an beyond legendary status at this point. It's just that time period. I don't know. It's just that the 96 to 2000 is so delicious when it comes to PC gaming because there's so many good
Mhm.
titles and any game that was enhanced or perform or designed for Voodoo, you're gonna have a good time. Like it just,
Yeah.
to me, Glide games tend to just seem to work. At least in my experience, you plop in your Voodoo card, you play your Glide game, and you're done. I mean, it just works, and it's a
Right.
good
And it
performer for each year basically. So,
and it was, it was pretty much the last surviving proprietary API.
hmm
It went on the longest out of all of them because at one point everybody had a proprietary API, but
yeah,
only 3D actually stuck and actually outlasted the age of DirectX and OpenGL and all those other standards.
yeah. And then you have like I think Control Alt Reese did for GPU June, didn't he? He went through all the ATI one. What was that one called again? Ziff or something? Their
Yeah,
proprietary.
CIF. Uh that wasn't it wasn't Control Alt Reese. It was let me try and remember
Yeah,
here.
sorry, I'm mixing up names now.
Because I want to definitely give him. It was Retro Tech
Yes,
Bytes.
Red Tech Bike. Sorry about that.
I want
Yep.
to give him that shout out. But yeah, he went through the CIF ones, and that was extremely short lived as far as
Yeah.
APIs go. Could do some very nifty things
hmm
for the time. I think really early on, it was actually ahead in some ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, Glide was just kind of um, in a way, it was a more of a de facto standard because in terms of speed and effects, like it was a close to metal
hmm
programming interface for Voodoo cards, and really got a very substantial speed improvement using it.
Yeah. We're gonna see this game is Motorhead is one of my favorite from the era. I'll see the volume and everything right now, but my own speaker's very loud. The reason I really like this game is because I can't think about a racing game that convey such a ridiculous sense of speed. It's really, and it's got that perfect like convergence of glide and technology and all that because it has that great color lighting. It's just an arcade racer. So this is 98 then. This is a breeze for this card to run in max settings. And there's probably some flickering at the bottom. This game loves switching resolution like crazy. So, but I want to say hi to, we have a lot of people on here tonight. So we got a lot of people. We got Christopher showing
Yeah,
up, Just Mike, Full Fresh, Tiger's on here, Solar showed up, Jam's on, document everything. I saw Tyler Jane earlier too. Hi Brian. Sorry, not trying to miss out, but let's just say we have a lot to say when it comes to video cards. So,
well, we wanted to cover like the
Mhm.
basics, give everybody an introduction and get everybody up to speed.
Exactly. So I think I'm gonna tune down this volume of this game a little bit. I just say loud one. It uses CD audio, so that gives you a, I don't know, fantastic mid-late 90s techno soundtrack to this game. And I used to listen to this soundtrack on my Minidisc player separately, which I still have, even in Rails and Rust. But in this game here, you don't have much setting options except just max. And this game is actually, even on Voodoo 3, will run this quite well. So,
Yeah.
but it's a very good glide type game, if you will. Above all, because it's got that. We'll see when we get into the game here. That delicious colored lighting for the era.
There's just something about like just texturing, multi-texturing, and color lighting that is just so, or like table fog and things like that,
Mhm.
that are just so nostalgic about this era.
Yep. There it is. Ah,
Nice.
there it is.
It seemed obligatory. Every racing game had to have a techno soundtrack.
Yeah,
At
it
this
was just
time.
the era, so.
And they were like legitimately good techno too for the
Yeah, I
time.
know.
Like,
We'll see
I mean,
what I
what was
get.
the Wipeout series had
Oh,
like
yeah.
really famous artists doing their
Yeah, Wipeout, I think, was that what caused the PlayStation to really take off in Europe, I think, because they really, you know, tapped into that club scene of the UK of the early 90s.
yeah,
And that made the PlayStation become like kind of like a grown-up console, you know?
right.
Not the lame Nintendo and whatnot. I mean, Nintendo's still printing money, they didn't care, but think about the fact that Sony came from nowhere and came in like that hard.
Right.
And this game is available on PlayStation. I never tried it, but it just screams 3D acceleration to me.
Now they did have a Wipeout 64
Mm.
for the Nintendo 64, which they did attempt to have like sample, like recorded music.
Yeah.
there was a handful of those N64 games that actually had like recorded soundtracks and stuff, but they had to compress the hell out of it. Sometimes they weren't even in stereo, and you would have like a smaller, obviously a way smaller selection.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I was going to look up, I can't remember the key to switch to the in-car view, which gives you an even better sense of speed, but that is not in here. The controls are in here. I have the box, but it's actually still sealed, so I have to open it. So, but like someone mentioned, yeah, this is just Layers bonanza. It's got the
Yeah.
whole smorgasbord of every mid-late 90s like visual effect you can imagine, but
Look at that draw distance. You can
Mhm.
almost see 2 cars ahead of you. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
exactly. The physics in this game are a little, but I ate this up when I played it. It's actually one of the hard games, or harder racing games, I think, from this era, because the AI in this one does not joke around. I mean, they will, and the precision is, it's odd, because it tries to be a little rigid razory almost. It's very slippery in the controls. You slide very easy, but the AIs don't slide. So you see there, they just kind of take off, and it's really hard to keep up speed, so it's a hard one to master. I'm too old to win at this game now, but it looks really good.
Did you
Whoops.
ever play? Did you ever play the game Roll Cage?
That rings a bell. I remember watching, or I think maybe trying a demo on that one, but I didn't play it, I think.
Yeah, because it's graphically it reminds me a lot of this one. It was a kind
Mm-hmm.
of a similar era. The cars, it was more like a futuristic, even more futuristic than this one,
Mm-hmm.
where the cars had oversized tires and they could
Yeah.
run up walls and flip over
Oh,
onto
nice.
their other side and still drive. And you had tunnels where you could drive up the sides of the tunnels and upside down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool game, but yeah, very similar visually.
Mm-hmm. Bet it was a PlayStation title as well, then. It just had that air to it, but I would most want to do a comparison sometime, because, I mean, here you're running a 1024 with full acceleration, all the glide stuff, and PlayStation probably couldn't quite do that, but to give an idea on the physics here, I actually lost less speed by just riding the wall versus hitting the brakes and trying to brake my slides, so
That is uncommon for a racing game.
yeah.
Usually it's like if you're going around a turn, it's almost better to come to a dead stop and hit the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, it just kind of lets you ride, but yeah, the slides are interesting, because you lose a lot of speed sliding, and AI never does it. But I'm not sure quite how to not slide, because as soon as you do a full steering input, which of course I do because it's keyboard, it just kind of smacks in.
Yeah.
But
Rails and Rust says some people dunk on how blurry the textures are on the N64, but they were filtered similarly, if not the same, as how the more advanced PCs of the time did. And that's part of the reason why I really love, even though they're like blurry, quote unquote, textures, I really love that look of
Mhm.
really 3D acceleration. And the N64 was by far the cheapest, easiest way to get that look.
Mhm.
Because, that console launched, it was only like $200 in the US, very aggressively priced. And yet the graphics
Hey,
hardware. Oh.
one track for you. That's it. And this is the latest
Uh,
patch too. Because as I say, a lot
like,
of N64 games got ported to Glide supported on PC, right? I'm thinking like
yeah.
G Police and Forsaken and those things, right?
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, other than speed, I mean, it was like visually, it was pretty
mhm.
comparable to, Voodoo, the original Voodoo. The texture filtering is actually kind of interesting on the N64. It uses a special, and I don't know the name, but it uses a 3-tap texturing filter, which is different from the bilinear filtering that most PCs would use.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, it still produced very good results at the time. And it was SGI technology
Yeah.
that they were using, uh, and that was their entry into gaming in the kind of the consumer world, because before that it was only workstation stuff.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. I better register the Sound Blaster. That's right. I have not registered the Sound Blaster. Sorry. It's funny installing stuff on a retro machine now. All the stuff like, I'll register later, 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 later. you know, because I'm not hooking this to the internet. But let's play a little FPS. And to me, there's nothing that says glide more than the original Unreal. This is not hard for this computer to
Mm,
run. But
Mm-mm.
we all want to see that intro part. We all want to see it.
Yep.
The castle flyby. That is the most glide thing I can think of.
It's gonna be in 32-bit color.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we forced that, didn't we? Amazing. It's interesting because this looks like a pirated copy, right? It's just like a timestamp on it, no logo. I mean, this is the actual. Did I not install this here? I thought I did. We didn't. We'll do it live, but yeah, I install it. What the heck? All right. This is the actual disc with the actual proper printed on, unless someone made a very good forgery. There it is. No music. Well, it looks cool at least.
Maybe you just have to turn up the volume in the settings or something
Yeah.
for the music.
Oops. Take a look. Uh,
Music volume.
there we go. I was coming in. But here's where you really, to me, besides this being a collector item, which it's, it's tough because I love more people to experience this, and I thought I would never own this, mostly because I can't pay the market price for this kind of card, right? I got lucky, and that's kind of how you fall into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a card like this, a late Voodoo card, gives you just a fantastic set of options for playing games from this era, right? There's so many cool
Right.
experiences you can have from like
And
95 and onward, right? So,
it really is one of the most. I mean, just because, and kind of the reason why it's so sought after is not just because it was the last flagship they actually managed to release,
mhm,
but also because it is a card that supports Direct3D and OpenGL and
yeah,
Glide and 32-bit color and
yeah,
with the best possible performance. And you can do that stuff with like a glide wrapper and stuff with
yeah,
newer cards. But it is something really special having the original card, having, the original drivers and the settings and everything
hmm,
for it. And, having that feeling that, you have that collector's piece, and not just in terms of monetary value, but just
hmm,
because you're kind of owning that piece of history.
yeah, exactly. And I think the 5 is awesome. I think if I was to like actually just say what is the best like bang for your buck, and I feel that Voodoo 3 is probably going to line up for me anyway, because it gives you so much as well. I mean, this is faster, better, everything, right? But Voodoo 3 at least is not unobtainium at this point. Voodoo 5 is starting to get in that territory, it feels like, because it just either people are picking it up or it's just the people that have it that eventually sell it, they know what it's worth, so
And I call it the 3FX tax.
yeah.
The Voodoo 5 5500 in its basic form is not a rare card.
Hmm.
Anytime you search for it on eBay, I guarantee 100% of the time you will hit a result. Um, they are always listed. Um, but regardless of there being apparently plenty of supply, the cost has just gone up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
And right now, as of August 26, 2021, they could go upwards of $400+ for just a card by itself.
I know.
If you want the box with it, and that's gonna add probably, I mean, it could as much as double the price. So
Hmm.
and it's just to have, because the box is especially like nostalgic. It's especially, I mean, it kind of gives you,
Oh yeah.
the card itself isn't going to really tell you the style, the era of the time, but the box
Oh yeah.
and the art on it just screams that late 90s, vibe.
Absolutely. And in my case here, I'm going to use this card a lot. I mean, this will
Yeah.
probably remain in this machine, or be put in a different one, but I'm planning on continually using it. So the 5 won't sit on my shelf, but the box will. So for me, that's a nice bonus, because it will be just part of
Right.
my backdrop here now, right? So,
And that's the thing too, like you weren't, and there's some people coming in late into the chat who don't know the story.
mhm.
So he just got this card this, was it this week or it was this week, right? um
Yeah, very recently. Here, I'll switch to this week. Let's see
uh
the box again. Ooh.
but he actually picked it up from an older gentleman at a LAN party who just happened to have it, sitting around in his house and didn't have a use for it, and had that and a Voodoo 4 4500, which Rick did not end up purchasing.
Hmm.
To be continued.
We'll
But
see.
but he got the 5500 for a very reasonable price,
Hmm.
way cheaper than what they go for. And I think a lot of it too is like, the owner, he was just making sure that his puppy would be taken care of, to
Yeah.
go to a good family, uh, and not just be scalped,
Hmm.
because you're not gonna find Rick's card on eBay.
No, never. I feel it's one of those things like you can't believe how lucky you are to get one. I didn't see dollar signs getting it. And he was joking about that too. He was like, "Oh, well, put it on eBay or scalp it or whatever. I don't care." And it's like, nope, this will actually get used because I love having it in my stable to play with. That's the point for me. Um, there's very few, since I'm not into collecting video cards. Most of them I buy, I intend for use in a specific machine or specific video, or it's coverage material for me or just fun. So I will have a hard time justifying market price. There's almost no video card that I will like just drop everything to get. But when a 5500 lands in your lap for what I would consider at this point a steal, knowing what they're worth now, you take
Right.
it. So
Hey, it's the same price I paid for mine, and I didn't get a box. So,
yeah. And I will say, for
you know,
record, the box has nothing in it. He lost all the innards, but I mean, you don't need that technically,
right.
of
It just
course.
has a plastic
Hmm.
clamshell.
Yep, that's it. And then the power splitter, and that's it. So
Oh, well, you got the power splitter. There you go.
yeah,
That's
so
something, right?
and he also has a complete set of like printed secondhand like instruction sheets and stuff, I think. So, but
Oh,
hey,
that's pretty cool.
yeah. But it's one of those things like it's kind of similar because I got a max stash a while back, right? Several G4s and a G3, things like that. Something I wasn't really necessarily hunting for, but then found a gentleman here locally as well, older gentleman. He was a vintage computer enthusiast as well, and he was really concerned about it going to someone who would care. So he was just like fist pumping me almost when he realized I was the one buying it. I think he's subscribed too, so he watched the live stream we did on the Rage 128 Pro. He said so.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
we got to get to the
Uh,
iconic select section here, obviously. So this was the
here it
first
is.
holy crap moment when I played this.
Yeah.
We have the jaggedy outline here of the mountain in the background there, but look at that.
But see now, I mean, that's us nitpicking in the
Hmm.
modern context,
Yep.
but at the time, the textures on the walls of the rocky formations there,
Hmm.
the just the expanse of it,
Yeah.
the detail and everything was unlike anything that any game had shown before. This was in 1998,
Yeah.
right? So it was a couple years before this graphics card came out, but I mean, this is the kind of thing you'd be running on a Voodoo 2
Hmm.
or like a TNT, like a Riva TNT or something like that. Like, and to this day, some of those textures actually hold up
Oh yeah.
fairly well, at least from a distance. It's
Now,
just, maybe the worst part is the geometry. Like that rock to your right there is like
yeah.
3 triangles.
Oh,
It's like,
so look at that. You can see through the world there. You see that little pop in there.
oh, yeah,
Whoop. It's coming apart the seams. But yeah, you're right. It's like it's important to put it in the context of what era it is.
yeah,
Because what other FPS games did we have at this point? Because to me, Unreal feels like the first, like, quote-unquote open world-ish. There's some open scenarios. Like this here, I don't have a complete catalog of all FPS games released, obviously, but it feels like that was not
right.
this kind of
No,
setting was new.
you didn't have like that kind of vista. Like there was Quake 2, and then there was games based on the engine like Hexen 2
Hmm.
and things like that, which they were kind of built in a kind of a arena style way,
Yeah.
which was an evolution, of course, of Doom, where the levels were kind of made out to be this like intertwining map.
Hmm.
And not to say that this game isn't that either, but it was just so much more expanded and
Oh, yeah.
larger. It didn't feel like a closed-in like playground.
Yeah, and that worked for those games, but here, that sense of wonder was there. There wasn't just corridor kill things, which of course that's all you do in this game too, but you had a sense of wonder and exploration too, versus with even Quake 2, there's a hallway, there's things to murderate, you know.
So retro hardware is
Ah,
asking
yes.
us to turn on fraps. This
We
is actually glide mode,
mhm.
so we can't turn on fraps. I believe you can go into the tilde console
Yeah,
and go to the stat FPS. I would think it's called.
I think that's the one I enabled, but it's weird because it's very small at the very bottom. I'm not sure if you can see it on
Yeah,
your screen there, but it says
yeah,
frame, like it's 15. This is better than 15 FPS, right? Because, I mean, that can't be right. Because, I mean, this feels much smoother than that, or maybe it's just running at that, but I would think this game...
yeah. This isn't anything that we can. Yeah,
Now, what you should do now is
it
take this
definitely
number
is.
as
It's
a...
definitely. Sorry.
I should take this number as a fact, make an angry video about it, complaining about it, and
Right. You're right.
you'll get those clicks. So yeah, I'm not sure what the best way to do that, or if it has trouble with the SLI component or something, but... a lot more people showing up for everyone. I'm not trying to miss anyone or say hi or anything. It's just there's a lot to talk about this, and I think it's hard to stop nerds when we get going. So
Right. Bruce Lucas says another game that was out around '98 was Shogo. I
yeah,
loved it, and well, of course, Half-Life, all of
yes,
which I got later on in the early 2000s. He says. So yeah, Half-Life actually was, especially like the opening section. It was
oh
actually some
yeah,
pretty big areas as well.
yeah. And I will say
Uh,
I have that installed, so I have the Game of the Year edition of Half-Life. Interestingly enough, I keep having a problem with it when after I install it, I get like a keyboard DLL error. So we can look at that later. If anyone else is familiar with that one, we can maybe fix it live. But I haven't been able to find a fix for that yet. Like it plays the first time I run. Next time I reboot, then it breaks basically, and I'm sure it's missing some default configuration file. It's the Game of the Year edition unpatched, so I'm not sure if there is a patch for the Game of the Year edition, but
I believe there's an update for it.
okay, maybe we'll try and get that too then. Flashlight. Nope. So why are these aliens here? Stuck a flashlight in a pot there. Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the invaders gave it to him.
Yep. Here's a flashlight. Now be quiet. Welcome, Brick Boy from Germany. We got quite a spread from across the world, and I love that on these streams that everyone is up really late, really early. Thank you very much. It's just the challenge of international streaming. So I grew up in Sweden, so I used to play Dark Age of Camelot with friends in the U.S. And while I was sitting there almost falling asleep, waiting for my friend to get home from work, he was like, "I'm gonna stop at McDonald's first. Like it's 1 a.m. in the morning for me." Yeah, we should check for patches. There's a couple websites I use for patches. Patches Scrolls is a great one.
Yeah,
That one's
great one.
probably my first one I go to. And I have a NAS that I try and like fill up with all these patches, so I don't have to hunt it every time.
Yeah, Christopher Glenrim says 99 and 2000 I was using a Matrox Millennium G450, going from a Diamond Voodoo 2 and GeForce 2. And we talked about this era, as far as games and everything, but this was, there was so much more competition in terms of all the different like companies that were still in the market. Like in 1999, Matrox was still very much active contender.
But
I keep saying the name wrong. Matrox. I
yeah,
gotta train myself to say it correctly. But yeah, it was a diverse time in terms of the kind of the wild west of 3D acceleration
mhm,
was still winding down by then. It was only like, as far as if you count like the original Voodoo as being kind of the beginning when it really took off.
mhm,
The 99 was only 3 years later, so you still had a lot of companies competing. Nvidia was not the juggernaut that they would
mhm.
later become yet. I mean, they were quickly becoming one of the top performing
Oh yeah,
graphics accelerator providers, but like, so were other companies. So
yeah.
it
And I think.
wasn't
Sorry, go ahead.
it wasn't like at that time we really knew who would be on top.
Mhm. No.
And at that time, I wasn't old enough to buy my own PC hardware, but
Mhm.
I can imagine shopping at that time probably would have been kind of a nail biter in a way, because
Oh
you just
yeah.
didn't know
No, exactly. There's
as
so
the
many
graphics card
standards.
you bought. like if it would still be supported in like a
Yeah.
couple of years or whatever, but
And think about the time frame here now, because I mean, this entire period we talked about is like 95 to 2000, like 5 years. Standards came and went, companies came and went. Something as big as 3DFX that dominated, at least in my mind, for a while there, disappeared into nothing, you know, and that was over just a few years that entire company existed and disappeared. I know they did arcade hardware and a whole bunch of other stuff too, but at least for the home consumer market, yeah, like, which standard did you bet on? And, you know, most people probably bet on 3DFX since they were probably most popular, but, ooh, nice little loading screen. That's the thing, you know, playing an older game. There's no in-game streaming here. It's, now we're loading, now we're done loading.
yeah.
All right, evening. Sukra's here. Welcome. Retromaniacs. I know.
Sukra in the house.
Yep, Sukra, you have a V5500, I think, right? Yep. Yeah, you're a veteran. You're a true old school Voodoo player there, so. I'm just a poser.
Someone asked which driver we're using. We are using the last official 3DFX driver because we're not playing it in the newer games. If you're playing era-appropriate games, then the official drivers are perfectly fine. They're certainly my preference. In this case, being the 1.04 beta. But of course, there was a, you know, after 3DFX left the market, got swallowed up, went bankrupt, etc. That kind of left a vacuum for, you know, users, you know, not getting support. You know, the Voodoo 5500 wouldn't have been that old by the time 3DFX disappeared, basically.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, you know, you try to play some of the games from 2001 and even some of the newer ones that should be possible to run. You can sometimes have issues with performance or even graphical rendering issues. So yeah, there was a fan community stepped up and created a number of you know, custom drivers to kind of enhance, build upon what 3DFX left behind, and increase the performance and the compatibility with newer games.
Exactly, and there's a lot of passionate fans when it comes to 3DFX, and I mean, justified, I think, too. Oh, we gotta have the creepy moment.
Oh, this is iconic here.
Yeah, it is iconic. I was not amused as a child, let's just say that. But like, what is going on?
There's a lot of hype for this, and it's actually not that hard to kill him. But
no, it's not. It's the first time you run into it, and I mean, I think we're all seeing the, yes, this is a screenshot, or, you know, true screenshot from the game magazine cover, right? That's like, it's a Scarge guy on the front, and like, for the era again, it was something else.
Right. Again, most of the detail was in the textures. This was a game made before like transformer lighting was integrated into the chip. You had to rely on the CPU for geometry processing.
Yeah.
So like the meshes and the models are not that complex, but the texturing.
Oh yeah.
Was like so far beyond anything before.
And it wasn't just brown. Let's just be honest with that too, because I mean, id Software makes some amazing engines, but back in the 90s, they sure liked the color brown a lot. So,
well, you know, brown isn't such a dull color as you might think. It's really just dark orange.
Yeah, that's true.
Trivia fact for anybody that watches Technology Connections.
That's that John Carmack's argument, or?
No, it's YouTube channel, Technology Connections. If you guys haven't heard of it, yeah, great channel. Makes the most mundane topics interesting miraculously. And one time he just talked about the color brown.
Hey, a good presenter and a good way of describing a, you know, whatever. It can be a fascinating watch for anything. So
exactly, it's all how you present it. And he does videos like I would like to, and kind of in a style that I try to, but he has a lot more time to do it, I think.
That's the kicker. I want to address one thing, because Elias, you said that this should be running better, and I think we talked about it just before this game started too, that we are running on period correct machine. I have a feeling this Voodoo could stretch a lot more if it got a more powerful CPU, you know, everything. But this P3700 is probably what a person would have been running if you were to buy this video card when it came out. It's very era appropriate, but it's not pushing this card as hard as it can, probably. So
yeah, I mean, this is probably pushing, you know, I mean, it's over 30 frames, right? When you say like, because I can only see it like streaming, but you're seeing it more direct, and you can see how smooth it's actually running. But
that's the thing too. You're always having some you know, translation problem there with the stream and the OBS, and it's never going to be as pure as, because I'm running it on a CRT, so woo. I died there the first time I streamed this game here.
Right. So he's saying I had the same CPU and it ran it much better.
Mm-hmm.
The frame rate counter is not reading it correctly for some reason, so keep that in mind. I mean, you can clearly see it is not is way smoother than 15, 12 frames per
Yeah.
second.
I think someone mentioned earlier that that was their frame time and not the frame rate, but the 16 millisecond frame time equated to about 60 FPS. So
yeah, and looking at the stream, it looks like it's running about 60 frames. I mean, just in terms of the smoothness, it looks pretty close to that. So
yeah,
I don't think we're too far off target. He is also forcing 32-bit color mode in the driver.
maximum glide.
He's not running it like just straight up glide. He's actually running it.
And there's lava. Where's Oz?
Oh, you're not gonna. Nope. Maybe you got extra health.
Isn't there a ramp here somewhere? Yeah, I lost my shield. Lost my shields. Oh, never mind. Oh, he did a little pirouette there, too. And Oz isn't even here to see it. Yeah, it's funny because I was trying to read the chat and I'm walking on an edge, and then the predictable result happened, So yeah, it's the thing. If you were to sit this and play raw straight on the CRT,
so
trust
the
me.
frame section is frame time, not frame rate.
Yeah. So
that is the milliseconds between. Yeah, and it's hard for me to see, but it does say millisecond next to that counter. So yeah.
Yeah, frames per second is basically a tiger, and I'm probably butchering this. Someone can correct me, but frames per second is how many frames you have in a second. Frame time is how long it takes to deliver those frames. That can then determine your kind of juddering or stuttering. If you get that in a game, then the frame time is probably too high. And you get a problem with that with certain desynchronization between the video card, the capture, the CRT, just a lot of factors. So,
and I just looked it up. 60 frames per second would be 16.33 milliseconds between frames.
Okay, so we're about...
he's been consistently under that. So we're good on performance, guys. Don't worry.
Yeah, it's part of the experience. So, and that's the thing is like, let's be realistic. We're not trying to throw shade. This is more of like this is a fun thing to do, and it's it's like we're not trying to prove 3D effects supremacy. We're not trying to prove 3D effects is horrible. It's just a fun period piece, and that's why I like this card so much in my category. So,
if you can run 32-bit color mode, then by all means do it. This is the card that lets you do it, and in my experience, pretty much everything runs great with 32-bit colors.
And let's try a contemporary shooter here now in Quake 2, which of course was previous to this, but brown, all brown. The interesting part of this one, maybe people can help me figure that out. When I switch to the 3D effects specific driver, if I go up to 1024, game crashes like every time. But if I leave it at 800 by 600, then it runs fine. So we can check here. But I think I ran at OpenGL 1024, and that was fine. So, but also, I don't know if this game is one of those that has CD audio, right? This music soundtrack is probably a copyright danger. That's the kicker with streaming. It's always the fun part. This is the way you could play Quake with the real soundtrack, but again, I'm not sure on the...
Yeah, the Quake is the one that they really get on your case about, because that's the Trent Reznor soundtrack, right? So
there, we'll disable the audio. So yeah, right now we're running 1024 in OpenGL, which is butter. And this, of course, is a game that's... this came out, what, 96, 97? For Unreal, right?
Quake 2, I believe, was it 97? No.
I don't know. I had the box behind me, but it's really far away.
Why am I forgetting?
I don't remember.
That's what happens when you're on camera. You don't remember.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's funny because
97, but the very tail end, December 97.
So, and of course, the Quake 2 engine underpins tons and tons of games. So,
right.
But this one has a time demo on it, doesn't it? We had this challenge last time, I think, of setting this. So, does anyone remember what the time demo command is here? All right.
Well, just it should be just time demo 1, and I think it defaults to like the well, if you exit to the title screen, so you go to the where it's playing the demo.
Sorry, I'm messing everything up right now. Final Fantasy 7 on the Banshee, yeah. That's a good point. There we go. Holy moly.
Oh, there we go.
That's the hyper assault here flying around. There we go. And then we'll have the results here, right? So that was... I think I did that wrong, because that was 0.0. I don't think you counted it correctly. 0 frames, everyone. 0 FPS. There you have it. The definitive result of the Voodoo 5 in Quake 2. I can try that again. Time demo dome. Because I interrupted it several times. Maybe I'll just leave it now. Let it run. Yeah, I want to play Final Fantasy 7 again using... Yeah, this is me playing live. Can you tell? I'm just that good at FPS games.
So did I
0.0.
count that? Now, let's try time demo 1, and then before you exit the console, do map, like press enter, and then map space demo 1
Just like that, demo 1. No,
dot dm2.
DM2.
D is in dog.
Okay, DM2. Okay, there we go.
Okay. Try that.
There you go. It's funny too, because we mentioned playing Final Fantasy 7. There we go. 94.8 frames per second at 1024 in OpenGL. So
yeah,
that's...
and it's running at whatever color depth your desktop is. So it's 32-bit
yeah.
color, and that's... Yeah.
I'm going to mention a fun thing, because I played Final Fantasy 7 on a Voodoo 1 card, I think. It's pretty funny, because it used a Voodoo card, at least that's the way I remember, for the 3D sections. And then the other stuff was like 2D, but the 3D sections were much sharper than on PlayStation as a natural result. But the weird part is that there was no, like, speed protection. So if you remember playing Final Fantasy 7, for those that have, there's a section where you're driving a motorcycle and you're supposed to swing a sword to knock the other people driving motorcycles as well. It runs so fast on the Voodoo 1 card that the sword is just flinging around like a madman, and it's actually... I died several times on that. I can't remember if I found a way to slow it down, but it ran way too fast.
Maybe it's a VSync thing. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, I was a kid at the time, but I had the
Right.
Voodoo 1 card and a P2 300, I think, at the time. And that was a tail end of that use scenario, of course, but it ran way too fast. So, but let's check the settings here, because right now I'm running default OpenGL, and I can show if I switch to 3dfx OpenGL. This is the patched version of Quake 2, the release version patched. If I do switch to this, it just goes derp, and it goes back to software mode. So if I set it to 800 by 600, I think, with 3dfx, then it takes... yeah. But if 1024 doesn't do it. So I'm not sure if I have the wrong mini driver installed or something like that. But
it could be. It may be something as simple as because 800 by 600 was the limit of like the Voodoo 2 like by itself. You know, you could do higher in SLI, but maybe that was the reason.
And that's true. And then in OpenGL it runs just so well anyway. So story in Quake? What? Want time for that?
Yeah, nobody got time for that.
Oh,
you're still in time demo mode.
Whee!
Time demo 0.
Oh, I gotta hurry. Oh, I gotta hurry. Welcome to Seizure Vision.
That was amusing.
Yeah. Oh.
Did it crash?
Yeah, I think so. Start it over. There we go. That's a little more appropriate. And then plus M look, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I would play the audio, but I feel like any of these games are going to be...
Hey, can you enable RTX mode?
I would love to see that. I wish I had an RTX card just for that purpose. Because what I've seen, at least in videos, it looks really cool. Sad I don't get to experience it because I am not paying these video card prices right now.
All right. Thanks for watching, Retro.
All right, thanks a lot.
We will get to AA at some point. We'll do an AA test. I wonder what would be a good game for that. It could be this one, maybe, but
yeah,
or like maybe Half-Life. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we should try and get Half-Life working, because that's the weird part with that one. Maybe we can put our collective retro brains together and figure that one out, because I'm not sure what the problem is there. But I'm excited for them to do ray tracing in games like older style because there's so many really cool games that are coming out that are like these retro boomer shooters, right? And I feel like that's
Yeah.
where ray tracing can really help it take to the level you think you remember these games looking, if you will. Because they did not, I mean, yeah, take a look at this
The
texture here,
nostalgia
right?
goggles
Yeah,
mode.
this texture is really cool for the era, but right now it's very, very blurry. And,
Right.
just an example, right? 4K texture
Uh,
packs,
I
etc.
I'll be honest, that was the only time I've ever been impressed with real-time ray tracing
Hmm.
with the like, the newer cards is with like Quake 2 RTX
Hmm.
and just like the pure, because that's the only way you can really play a game with pure ray tracing is if it's something older like this with,
Hmm.
simpler geometry and everything.
I have heard that
Um,
games like Cyberpunk, who rely have very, very deep and good RTX implementation with a very high-powered rig, look amazing. But
yeah.
finding a
And
3090
yeah,
now.
exactly. They and that's not to disparage, some games do implement, RT features
Hmm.
and look amazing. But obviously they're not running pure ray tracing.
Hmm.
And there's something really special with something like Quake 2 RTX where every light is physically accurate, is rendered like, when you stand in front of a light, you're gonna block it and
Yeah.
cast everything in shadow.
Hmm.
And when you see like a metallic surface with like little rivets glinting with a little bit of light reflection,
Yeah.
if you block the light, those little glints of reflection disappear. And we're used to that being like a fixed shader effect.
Yeah. And doing that dynamically, it's funny because it feels
Yeah.
like I joined in everyone else, like when the first 2 series card came out, and like, oh, ray tracing will, it's just a ridiculous gimmick because it's too heavy to run. And then as it got better and better, and then 3 series came out, and like, wow, this really changes the lighting game considerably because if you can do it automatically, if you will, realistically, without having to manually design all these lighting features, I
Yeah.
mean, that's huge. So,
And so many of the games like Quake 2 is actually a great example. It was a pioneer of, using light maps to do, pre-calculated lighting in the level.
hmm.
And you could get, much better lighting obviously because you didn't have to worry about time of day shifts or anything
Oh
like
no,
that.
it's
It
brown, dang
was
it, you'll like it.
there's somebody behind you too.
I got a copile here now.
There you go. But it was a multi-texturing effect to be able to do like the pre-rendered light maps.
Hmm.
Um, and that was something, that cards at the time were just starting to enable.
Yeah,
And it would have been hard to imagine a future where you could just do that quality of lighting, but in real time, calculated frame by frame.
yeah. Especially since it is calculated on the fly too, being able to just add complexity to it. Of course, there's more horsepower, but it will accurately bounce off all the surfaces. I
Yeah.
mean, I've seen like the deep analysis of like Cyberpunk, for example, where they show like the neon reflecting into water, reflecting into metal. I mean, it just yeah.
Right. And
Um,
light, like indirect lighting. So, you have a room where it's just like one source of light, but it reflects off the surfaces, bounces. Depending on the color of the surface, it may tint the lighting,
yeah.
which is another really cool thing. It's just all this stuff that's only just recently been made possible.
Hmm.
Um, is I think it is one of the bigger advancements in modern times.
Yeah, I think so. Especially now that developers are getting used to using it too, and they know that video cards are getting more powerful. Well, they can do it,
Yeah.
but you got to be able to buy one for that, I suppose. There's that part.
that's that's a secondary
I
issue. That's
know. Yeah.
that's not important to actually own one.
No, that's right. I have a 1080 GTX 1080, and at this point, that will be in my stable for a long time. I think at this rate. I keep playing old games too, of course, but
Hey, old games are classics for a reason.
yep, and that's because then you can get a machine like this that sure playing a year 2000 game, and I do have Deus Ex loaded up, which I feel is probably the tail end of what this machine probably should be enjoyed with. Um, it's still era appropriate, but it definitely seems like it taxes this machine a lot more than something like Quake 2 here. Um,
Yeah, we're kind of going in the chronological order as far as games go here.
mhm.
we're showing obviously this is something that's really easy to run on a Voodoo 5.
Yep.
You would have still probably been playing this in the late 90s, early 2000s, just because of the multiplayer and all the
Oh yeah.
mods that came out. But that's why it's interesting to show. But
Yep.
we will get to newer games later on. I don't know if we have Sucre was suggesting Serious Sam, the first encounter. I don't think we have that one.
I don't have it installed, but we can certainly fix that. So I have a little NAS with a lot of stuff on it, so been trying to rip my stuff, and there's a lot of abandonware software these days too, which just makes it even more neat for this kind of purpose of playing retro machines or retro games, in that there's a lot of games you can get either free or you can get them from GOG or cheaply. You can have a lot of cool experiences pretty easily. Let's just say you can buy a lot of retro games for the price of one 3090.
Right. And they come with their own like quirks. Like a lot of times the GOG games are already like, or even like many of them on Steam are gonna have like N Glide installed and stuff like that. They're optimized and tailored to run on a newer computer.
Yeah.
So if you try to take those digital copies and bring them to a retro computer, a lot of times you have to go through with a fine comb
Yeah.
and delete the files they added, and sometimes change config settings and things
Yeah,
to get it to
exactly.
work like it used to.
I will say I feel like the remaster Quake, or not remaster, but the enhanced edition that just came out, sounds like it's just the right way to do one of those. Like, they added features.
Yeah.
Tyler Jane, I think you were playing it on CRT, or maybe that was Doom 64 or something, but it's a really, really well done effort to preserve the original while enhancing it where they can, without just,
Hmm.
slapping into a modern engine and calling it good. Like, it's an actual proper, true, painstakingly made. Honestly, I don't think I've ever found the secret level before, so here we are. Uh,
Yeah, I definitely liked it, and I liked the fact that they were giving it out for free for people that already owned
mhm,
Quake. So if you install Quake, like if you already have it in your Steam library, it just pops up as an option. You can run the enhanced
mhm,
version of it, and definitely makes it easier. It enables the CD, audio again, which we didn't have before,
mhm.
and widescreen support. And they add like ambient occlusion and the option to toggle texture filtering off and on depending on what you prefer.
Like 64, I mean, they just.
Yeah, and a lot of nifty things. I'll be honest, like when the rumors first started swirling that they were gonna release
Yeah.
an enhanced version of Quake, I was like, I went overboard with my imagination. I was like, all right, let's do this.
Mhm.
Quake on like the id Tech 7 engine. Let's go. Like,
Yep. Exactly. I was
and
here's the Quake revival, but I mean, it might be, getting closer now, right? So, 'cause
it could
these.
happen if they like, I don't know, maybe they're doing this to test the waters and see
Mhm,
how popular Quake is. But I mean, arguably, like Doom 2016 and like Doom Eternal are aesthetically very similar.
mhm.
Like the kind of this the mix of like the medieval kind of demonic aesthetic with technology. It's kind of
Yeah.
similar in some ways to the original Quake. And Quake, to me, kind of stands alone in its art style. Like this is a very different looking game. This Quake
Oh, yeah.
2 is so much more sci-fi than the original. And Quake had different looks depending on the level, of course. Like you
Mhm.
had the different parts of it, but especially like that first area of the game was
Mhm.
very like Lovecraftian, like
Oh, yeah.
uh, medieval dark fantasy.
And that's probably the one I would probably, if they were to revisit the.
All right,
Okay.
thanks Christopher for joining us.
All right, thanks a lot. If they were to revisit the Quake as a proper true in that engine and everything, I would hope that they go deep into the Lovecraft side of things, because that feels like it's a natural thing to get monsters out of it without it being demons, because that's clearly very well done and played already in Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. So we live in this era now where we always have to specify when the short name of a product is it the remastered one, the new one, or the old one. There's so many games like that if they come out, like Saints Row is being rebooted or restarted, and it's just called Saints Row. Do you mean the original Saints Row? One,
Yeah,
two, three, four? Which one?
you got to start attaching a year to the name. Like,
Yeah. It's just the way it is, I suppose.
I mean, that's why I have to say Doom 2016 because
Yeah. Yeah, if you say Doom, I'm going to assume it's the
right,
original. That's
of
by
course.
default.
So Sucre said, whenever I got a new video card back in the day, I reinstalled all my old games to see how much better they ran. Did
Yes.
you guys do that too?
I missed that.
Yeah, I would have a lot of go-to games, like especially uh Halo for the
Hmm.
PC. Was one of those games that always seemed to just run better and better the faster your graphics card. And so I always loved whenever I got a GPU upgrade, loading up that game. And like I think Far Cry, the original Far Cry was another one.
Oh, yeah.
And also like anti-aliasing and anisotropic filtering. Like I would turn those features on and see how much better it ran uh, with the upgrade. And because a lot of times those features, in the early 2000s, they would cripple your performance.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was just glorious because I feel like, I mean, yeah, there's stuff you can do like that today, but the generational leaps back in the 90s for every new video card was usually pretty dramatic. So when you got a new machine or a new video card, it's like you could be doubling your performance just like that.
Yeah,
Versus here now, yeah, sure, if you wait long enough or you can't find a video card, that will happen again. But at least for me, every time I upgraded in the 90s, it was like, holy cow, it was a huge upgrade. And then, yeah, I would definitely go and reinstall pretty much all my games to try them out. You know,
yeah,
running Total Annihilation the first time on a more powerful processor and just cramming the screen with units and it didn't die. For anyone that's played Total Annihilation with a lot of units on the screen, it just goes bonkers after a while. So it was something special. There's a red key.
right. Yeah, processors and graphics cards for a while were like that. And nowadays, it almost seems like we're kind of almost heading into like the era of graphics where it's almost like the audiophile world,
Mm-hmm.
where if you want that extra 10% of performance, you've got to spend an extra $1,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, like the 3090 is completely ridiculous in terms of price to performance. And now
Mm-hmm.
there's rumors of a 3090 Super coming out, which
Oh
is
my
only going to be
goodness.
like 2% faster. And it's like, at that point, really, I mean, they can ask for pretty much any price they want, right?
Oh yeah,
Because
doesn't matter. People will buy it.
anyway, so it's just kind of, and price to performance ratio hasn't really improved that much either with newer cards. Like I think even Hardware Unboxed talked about the new Radeon 6600 XT. That is around a $400 graphics card.
Yeah.
And if you take half of its performance, well, you basically have an RX 580, which released like 3 or 4 years ago for $200. So we've
Mm-hmm.
stayed pretty much the same price to performance ratio
Yeah,
for the last like 4 or 5 years.
it's ridiculous. It really, really is. And MSRP is kind of a joke at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of it too is just like the technology slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the demand for performance isn't what it was,
No.
and we're not in the Wild West days anymore.
No.
You can get away with running a graphics card for several years
Oh yeah,
and be just
absolutely.
just fine.
Yeah, it comes more like what resolution do you want to play, and the one thing that kind of cripples me a little bit is I have an ultra wide monitor as my primary, and that worked fine for a few years ago, right? But then you get into the newer games now. If I run at a low resolution, it just does not look right, the non-native resolution, right? So
Right.
the enough horsepower to run that, but a lot of bad guys here. This kind of sums up the entirety of
It's
Quake.
it's a secret level. They're not gonna go easy on you.
I guess not. Alright, so what should we play after this? I have a few more games installed already. We certainly can install other ones if you want to try out Serious Sam or something like that, but um, Armor, please. We can also try some slower paced games, and so take me back to... There we go.
Well, if we're going in chronological order, I feel like Half-Life might be the one to try to get going again.
Okay, let's see if we can figure that out then. I'll see if I can find a patch otherwise. But Good thing I have a co-host now, so now we can just talk about video cards while I fumble around with the computer. So I'll do this because yeah, I can show what happens. I have the original disc for this guy too. It's pretty funny because I tried to set my, you can see the CD-ROM drive is not D. I was trying to set it, but my zip drive is unchangeable. I have an internal zip drive in this machine, and it took over the D drive, and it will not swap out. So
Mm,
whatever, it works. With Quake 2. I get almost like deer in headlights when I start installing games on a Windows 98 machine because there's so many cool games for this era that you can just spend
yeah.
days installing games.
I mean, we could be here till like 5 in the morning,
Hmm.
playing all the different games of the era that, you know,
Yeah, it's
and
a
so many games that kind of like started the whole, um, started so many franchises
mhm.
as well, got their birth
There we
during
go.
this time.
This is what I get. So let me look and see if there's a newer
Keyboard
patch.
keyboard bindings
Yeah, so like it's the keyboard
file.
binding files empty, but I have not done anything to this installation at all. So
And you've tried reinstalling it and it keeps doing it.
no, I can try and just reinstall it straight up. We have time, so let me 'cause it did work the first time. I basically did the same thing. I installed it, and then that was it. And it ran. I tested it, exit out of it, and I've rebooted several times since, and then it just... So, but we can do this.
Someone's asking if we have Carmageddon 2 on here, which I didn't
Um,
see the icon for it.
no, I don't
So
have it on here. I considered that too, but I kind of ran out of time of installing games, so
yeah,
install. And I think Suka, you mentioned earlier that this version or Half-Life didn't have 3D effects support out of the box. This is the Game of the Year edition, so that one did come with 3D effects built in. Diablo 2 is also one. It's funny because so at this LAN party, I brought with me the machine where we're going to stream with originally, and while everyone else was playing, whatever modern computers stuff, competing, I sat there for like all night, 6 hours probably, just installing a whole bunch of games to that machine. So that one's ready if we want to play Voodoo 3 or Banshee sometime. So thank you, Scorpion. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm hoping to just co-stream more. It's fun, right? So I really appreciate you coming
yeah.
on there, Pixel. This was your suggestion too. So it's it makes the
I think
stream
it's
really fun.
yeah, I think it's definitely something we want to do once in a while. It's
Hmm.
not going to be, we can't do it every week, but it's
Now,
it's going to be, we don't want you to get sick of me. So
oh no,
but yeah, every once in a while I think when we get the itch, we'll definitely be
yeah.
collaborating, and I think Rick has a really good setup here where I don't have to do anything. I just show up
Hmm.
and he makes me look pretty on the screen. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out too. It's the trickiness of getting all this rigged up, and I need to just like unplug everything and redo it or something. But right now, at least it's for the stream perspective, it looks fine. It sounds fine. That's my nightmare in general, is the technical problems. Because problems with a game, I don't know, that's part of the experience. But like, I can't hear the audio from this person talking, or the video output's not working. That can kill a stream pretty fast. So far so good until this machine
It's
crashes,
always,
I
yeah,
guess.
it really is always the technical,
Hmm.
you know, crap. Like I was just testing my webcam on OBS and it wasn't even working at all. What?
Hmm.
Why?
I know, and it's like,
It's just things like that just decide to stop working.
oh yeah. Yeah, so what you're watching now, so I use a data path capture card for all my capture, and I use a custom written software called VCS, which I can't remember the name now of the person who created it, but it's a custom software built for the community, basically, free, that allows you to control that software, because the data path capture card is one of those like studio production cards. It has software for it, but it's just not designed for this kind of thing. The VCS software is great, but you basically then have a window running on your computer that then I capture into OBS. And I have to capture that based on the header or title of that window. And I swear, if I leave that running, which I try, I set that up the night before, so it's all done and everything. And then I come and start it the next day, and then just captures the configuration window for it instead. Like, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed, but instead of now, OBS has decided to capture the configuration window instead of the actual display. I have to restart OBS like 3 times to make that work, so I don't know, man. Technology.
Yep.
Oh, there's a giant Michelangelo behind you? Yeah. It's a creeper. So how excited are you about the new Turtles game? Because I am stupidly excited about that one.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much there when that comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say it is well past time for another good Turtles game.
Yeah.
We've had so many crappy like shovelware games come out,
Mm-hmm.
basically geared towards children that were completely worthless.
Yeah.
And it's an old franchise, goes back to 1984. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
us old timers with grays in our beards that are
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, give me something I can play and enjoy. So,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
So they
Uh,
released April O'Neil as a playable character the other day here, right? And that looks amazing.
yeah, I
So,
saw a headline for that, which is
mm-hmm.
kind of interesting because they're using a cartoon version of
Yeah.
her, which she is a news reporter.
Mm-hmm.
There are versions of April and others incarnations of the turtles that she did know martial arts, but they're
Yeah.
using the cartoon version.
Oh.
So it'll be interesting to see a news reporter kicking ass. But
Yeah, you should watch it because one of the moves she has is the mic drop. She fights with a microphone in her hand and she drops a microphone and it explodes. So, I mean, I love the fact that do this little, like, twinkle in the eye kind of
mm,
approach, right?
yeah,
So,
well, it's kind of like the Simpsons beat 'em
hmm
up, right? It's like you
yeah.
got Marge fighting with a vacuum cleaner, like
Yeah, it's
why not?
ridiculous. Hmm.
Uh, Elias, I think his name, says that Babel 2 will run and glide at 1024 by 768,
Hmm.
and it says it looks great with anti-aliasing.
Yeah, I tried that before this stopped working. And this happened too when I installed it for some reason. It just sits here for a long time. CD is spitting like crazy, so we'll just give it time. But it did run at 1024. So, Sukra, to answer your question, Nate is coming through Discord. So I figured get used to using Discord for everything because that kind of feels like the best like communication tool. I say that and it will crash now. Who knows? But
Yeah, it seems to work really smoothly. I mean, it's definitely a lot easier than in years past when I did podcasts for other websites and we were trying to coordinate. Like,
mhm,
we would use uh, Google, uh, Google Video Chat, and then we would also record our audio separately.
mhm.
And it was always a technical mess.
Yeah, yeah. In this case here, it is kind of a mess for connecting it. What I found is I've heard that. So right now, what I'm doing is that so my audio here is in Discord, right? I hear Pixel talking in Discord through here. What I do then is that that same output from my computer is being piped into OBS. So I had to turn off all my sounds because if my computer dings, you'll hear that too.
Yeah.
So there's a software called I think Voice Meter Banana, and that lets you create virtual inputs and outputs. So the free version lets you have I think 3 inputs and 2 outputs or something like that. So what you can do then is say the output component in Discord goes to the banana input one. Well, then banana input one outputs into OBS. Then you're just capturing the Discord audio. So I'm gonna
Oh,
test
that's
that.
cool.
It is free, and supposedly that's the one pretty much everyone uses. But it's just another piece of software to learn, another piece of software to configure, etc. So,
Yeah. Just Mike says, I hope Arcade One Up does the Turtles game. They did. That was
oh,
actually one that came out a year or two ago. They did the Team NT original arcade cabinet, so they recreated the side art on the cabinet and did it up like the original game. And they actually had 4-player support. So you had like the 4 joysticks color coded with the different turtles, which is really cool. Um, and they are releasing, so that one's discontinued now, but they're releasing a newer version for the Turtles in Time game.
hmm,
And the original had both games also. So it had the original Turtles arcade and it had Turtles in Time. So really the only difference is they're changing the side art to reflect Turtles in Time
hmm,
this time around. As far as I know, the content inside isn't any different, but the price is different. If you want the Turtles in Time newer version, it is like $600,
Whew.
whereas the the first time around they released it, it was only like 400. So that's some hyperinflation there for you.
Yeah, and I know that those have become. We wanted it for the kids for a while. They were really getting into turtles and like, oh, cool to have. We ended up buying At Legends, one from Walmart or whatever, and then you can just put a little USB stick and play anything on it. People already figured out how to hack the bejeebus out of that one, so but that Turtles one just goes for a lot of money now. And I think just back to your point, to run the brand new Turtles game on that, the problem with a lot of those emulation devices, they don't have a ton of horsepower in there, especially if some of these modern retro games are made with a new engine or something. Often they put
Yeah.
in the devices they run the emulation on these things is usually the bare minimum they can because it's mass produced, which makes sense. Often they don't have enough horsepower to run purely modern games, right? So that's in the case there, they're probably using something like Unity, right, to make that Turtles game or
Yeah.
something. So,
I'm sure there's a way, like if you wanted to like get some old, like rip out the guts out of an old HP that has like a Core
oh
i5 or
yeah,
something in there, or like even an i3 would probably be enough to run like a 2D game like that,
yeah,
and just run like a Windows or Linux environment inside of a cabinet.
mhm,
Um, I know for a fact there's been many people that use PC hardware on those, so
yeah.
that may be one route.
Yeah, that was a no-go there. I don't know what version that it comes pre-patched. I'm trying to look at patches scrolls here for the version. Um, yeah, the thing with that, with as far as like standing arcade, the At Legends arcade machine is really cool because it's has HDMI input and USB input on the machine. If you want to plug in an HDMI device and use the control pad with a computer, with a Mister, I've tried that, with a Raspberry Pi, you can do it with zero hacking. No hacking at all. You literally just plug in HDMI, plug in a USB controller, a straight through USB cable, and then the control board shows up as a controllable device in your device. And that's one of the reasons we bought it because it requires no modding to it to be able to run any third-party stuff you want on it. So then a lot of people do that. They jam a small PC in there, they run with that permanently, and presto, now you have an arcade machine, and it's like $500 out of the box, and it's full height, full size, full standing up. So the kids
Yeah.
kids loved it, even though that I had to put a stop to it because they were playing Turtles in Time, and my one kid just wanted to get new credits, so he just cowabunga, cow. No, I need 100 guys. No, stop it, cowabunga. All right, do we have any brain trust or ideas on which one to do here? Because yeah, oh, there's a button to reinstall, but I did
Yeah, well, if
nothing.
you're having trouble finding the patch, I can
Yeah, if you
send
see
it
if you
to
can,
you
if
real quick.
you happen to have one handy.
I do have it, yeah.
Okay,
Hopefully uploading it
I'm not sure what the.
will not disrupt my stream, but we'll see here.
But the so what you guys are going to see now in live here is that I basically, and I'm again, I say this every stream. I'm hoping to cover this on a video. Uh, the retro network I have set up um, makes it so that I can transfer files from my modern computer to pretty much anything that I have, including some DOS machines over the network. So once a computer is networked, I don't have to run with floppies or CDs or USB sticks or anything. I just get the network driver on there, and after that, I'm golden to copy everything I need. So, and that makes it very easy to transfer files to these old machines without digging out a USB stick or moving it, which can be easy enough, right? So, this is Soundmaster Live. So yes, it does have EAX. I don't think we have that enabled so far. Some games I found, like the Motorhead game, does not like enabling the 3D audio, for example. So download that. Problem I have is that the streaming window that I have you capturing in here is a little challenging. So
A lot of people talking about using a K6 with their Voodoo cards, which is certainly a popular option. More of the Pentium 2 kind of era performance there, but
it up here. I have a lot of windows here I move around. So all right, welcome Retro Tech Chris. That's right. Appreciate you stopping by. Retrotech, Chris is another awesome YouTuber, really good channel, so check out his stuff. A lot of DOS stuff.
Oh, cool.
I have the patch, so I'm going to move it to the NAS.
And there is one after this too, if that one doesn't work.
Biggest thing with this, the game of the, yeah, Zoe is a diva. We're talking about is my cat here, who's like, yeah. So because we got the puppy now, the cat doesn't necessarily want to be hanging around. So she spends a lot of time in the basement. So when someone comes down here, just like, oh, company. All right, so let's take a look here now. So I dumped it on my NAS, just at the short name Retro NAS, and then I can just go and find the Half-Life folder here. There it is, and here's the update. We'll copy that locally. It feels like that's always going to be a better chance of success. Oh, not done copying yet. Wrong there. See, it works every time.
It's a great setup.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, I'm not like savvy when it comes to networking, but it's been something I've contemplated doing because I just use USB sticks and move things around physically, which is less convenient. But I
Yeah, it
guess that's what
is.
it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, when you do a little setup, getting it running, of course, there's a 10 megabit NIC in this guy, I think, so, you know, you get that. But it is worth for the effort to do it. Yeah, like Tyler James saying, crawling around trying to plug in the stuff. Once you get the network up and running, I don't have to touch any configuration anymore. Any Windows 98 or 95 machine pretty much is just out of the box. Anything older than that, you have to mess with TCP/IP stacks and stuff. But Windows 98, you basically network, and then I can get to this NAS as long as SMB1 is enabled, you know, whatever. So um, it's very very handy, and I found that especially transferring large things or building new machines, I can keep a folder basically at that point on my NAS that has the drivers for a particular machine, right? So and I'm building that driver library, and I'm going to back that NAS up now. Because sooner or later, that thing's going to explode, and I lose out on a lot of progress. Next, there it is. So I guess this patch version is newer than the Game of the Year edition, so you dropped another patch there, right? Almost chatting. I'm not sure. It's still difficult. I have like 16 windows open now to do all this stuff. I don't need a Team Fortress thing on my desktop. Thank you. All right. Drum roll, please. Fine. Everyone close your eyes. Hey! Oh, no! Can't open a splash screen. Oh, all right. Well, it's running. Whatever.
Oh darn! I didn't get the
First,
pre-effect splash screen.
first try.
Yeah, right.
This is retro. I call that a success. Of course, it's gonna break
Right.
now.
All you have to do is download a patch and install it.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing pretty good. It could get so much worse.
Little flicker in there. We'll see if we have to tune that out. It has to do with the capture and what basically pixel line is picking up. So, ooh, that is neat.
That's fascinating.
That is very fascinating. Boy, yeah, it's having a good time now. I did not do this before. So yeah, the background files are missing.
Alrighty then.
Ooh. Oh, no, I don't want that. I want... See if we can get it to the game this way. Then we don't care anymore. Right? The game launches, then...
Oh.
What? It totally is. I guess I should move to a bigger stream window here now too, but...
Oh, man.
Wow. Yeah, that patch didn't like it, so...
All right. Well, there's another one.
That's where because it broke everything, and that's as far as I know, the CD doesn't have any particular problems. Okay, it's not going to get past this, is it? Whew.
I mean, that's running software. I mean, it was doing that even with the software renderer. So I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, here now it's missing a whole bunch of stuff. Something broke pretty bad on the default. New game.bmp missing. It's like it's missing everything, so...
oh,
Ooh, getting worse. Yeah. There we go, illegal operation. So I assume that a lot of those files are missing then. Do I have the original version? I'm not sure I do. I think I only have the Game of the Year
well,
edition.
go ahead and try this other patch I sent you.
Okay.
If that doesn't work, let's just move on.
Yeah, exactly. Final. I like the name of that patch.
I think they have to be installed concurrently because some patches are like that. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is true retro experience, right? Part of the whole deal. And every time I'm trying, I have to move your face around on my screen to, to copy the files because Discord takes precedent over the screen, and it's like everything is uh, under it. So all right.
So guys, after if we can't get Half-Life running, what would you like to see next? You
Yeah,
can see kind of on the desktop there what he has available.
got some more racing games. Quake 3 is another one that's probably good too, but we can just hop into Motor Racer 2, which runs quite well on this guy. So go final. Yes, sorry, I don't have Wheel of Time. I never played that one, so of course, nostalgia fuel is the first thing that kicks in, right? So that's usually what I have
Yeah,
installed.
I don't think he has Final Fantasy VII either.
No, we can't do that, but Forsaken I do have. That's a good. That's a game that came out on N64 too, I think, right? It's one of those very
Yeah.
pretty color lighting games. Yes, Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed might be a good one. That's that came out in 2000, didn't it? So we can do some benching in. Is there a built-in benchmark in Quake 3? So many options. If we talk about other games, then Half-Life will work now. So it doesn't want to be left out.
Right. Works every time.
Absolutely. And we should try and crank Porsche Unleashed as high as we can on settings. Let's see what I'm not. Well,
It's funny because the Voodoo 5, I mean really it's one of those things, it just works. I mean
mm-hmm.
the games themselves though is another matter.
That's hit or miss, yeah.
Yeah.
At this
I
point, I'm
mean
starting to think a reboot is in order, but
possibly because
oh, there we
it
go.
did have.
Yeah, it exists. That's kind of when I want to install it, so hopefully that dumps all those files in there. We'll see what happens. I do not think it can run Crisis. I do have Homeworld here, which I love that game. I wasn't sure how excuse me, how good that was to showcase. It's a very slow-paced game, obviously, but it is one that I think runs very well on this type of machine. I think I played it on my P3 500 originally. This is my original copy, including a very hard-to-read license key on the back that I thought I typed it correct to the point where I thought that the key was incorrect. Like, I spent like a long time, longer than I care to admit, trying to type that, and I realized, like, oh, that's a 5, not a 6, and then problem solved. Oh no. So yeah. Yeah, something is completely broken with that installation. Not finding DLL files. It's weird too, because I mean, it's worked before, but yeah, now it can't even start at all. So,
All right. Well,
that's
we
pretty
tried,
much,
guys.
yep. All right, we can do a Porsche Unleashed. That seems like a little racing. Whip around priceless Porsches around the track. I will get Half-Life working again, because it's, of course, very good for this type of machine. The disc is not the cleanest, I can definitely say that. It's got some scratches on it, so I think I have 2 copies of this. I should probably just try the other CD, so... the disc, I think, is fine. It's just this game that's borked, so it's very possible that particular one is the bad one. Do you guys want us to move along, or should I try and find my outer disc and try that quick? Let the group decide. I'm going to give Half-Life one last chance. If it will uninstall.
You may want to reboot just to be safe.
I agree. We'll reboot as well. So then either we'll see if I
Because
can find my outer
they do a
disc.
lot of crashing, and
Mm-hmm.
Windows doesn't always get its feet back after crashing. So.
Now we'll restart. All right, we got to move on. All right, we'll do Porsche. Nice little
One
bio
thing
screen there.
Sucre says one thing that can help next time is to copy the CD to the hard drive and install from there.
Yeah, that's true as well. But yeah,
Don't look at me. I use like ISOs for
yeah, I know. That's what I do for a lot of games, but and then some of these are like the original experience, right? So
right. Well, you don't get the Red Book audio just doing like
now,
mounted ISO.
yeah,
At least I don't know how.
and yes, because it's networked, you actually get a logon prompt, which no one write down my password. That's blank, but that's the Windows 4 Net logon client has to use that. So,
Well, you still have the
oh yeah, I
start
can never
the.
turn it off. The music is too good. It is. All right, so now for AA, so that's something we need to configure in the settings here, right? Or so I don't know what that is. So we want
For which
this
game?
Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed.
I think that's Direct3D. So you want to be in Direct3D.
Okay,
Click on the Direct3D button there.
do 2 or
And
4.
start with 2 because it is a game from 2000.
Mm-hmm.
So
Fascinating to test it with the disable too, but I mean go with the single chip core. So
oh yeah.
that'd be that'd be a difference.
Performance difference. Yeah, definitely if we get into benchmarking, I think that could be just to see what the scaling is like.
Mm-hmm. Elios is saying that this is a Glide game and not Direct 3D. Guess we can find out when we get into it.
I wasn't aware of it being Glide, but I could be wrong about that.
True experience of loading times here too. I feel I have to replace the CD-ROM drive in this guy or something. So it's a it reads most of the time, but sometimes it gets a little finicky. See, we're getting the true retro experience now. It's funny because I tested all these games. What I usually do is like I don't install and then move on. I install, test the game to make sure it runs, so I know it's available to stream with. And that's not working so well right now.
Everything works perfectly until you go live.
Yep. Yeah. Now nothing. No inputs working at all. Yeah. This one I actually tested like earlier today, I think. Yeah, it's not impossible if the CD is the original problem, so it's a standard um, IDE drive, so spitting up. But
I
I
mean, that
cannot.
would explain why you had, you know, missing files or corrupted files.
Mm-hmm. Well, I still
It, ca-
installed the game
it,
just fine, so yeah, it's a question. So, oh, we'll reboot it. I'll control delete too long, so it's fine because I
we will have another gameplay.
at some point I have
We
other
are
games
not
that are
done.
ISO based. Yeah, we have other games that are ISO based. So if the CD-ROM just decides to crap out completely, um, I would love to have a live streaming setup where I could actually do some like workbench stuff too. Like here install this video card, test it, whatever, or do computer surgery as needed during stream. But I have no space for that here right now. So
Sucre asked if a game runs on Glide, is it guaranteed to scale with the dual chips of the Voodoo 5? Pretty much, if the game runs on a Voodoo 5, it's guaranteed to scale with the two chips. This the SLI implementation is just so incredibly seamless on the Voodoo 5. I have not personally run into any game that wasn't able to use both chips. And again, without any like stuttering or any kind of rendering issues whatsoever. As far as the game is and the system is concerned, it acts like one card.
this is really neat because yeah, I literally played this game like yesterday testing this machine. Find the other drive that's here, which I don't think works very well, but Desperate Time calls Desperate Measures. We'll do one more wing at it, and then we'll try something different, I guess. So I think the cool thing with the Voodoo 5, right, is with the dual chips that they are basically independent. They just share some components, but
Yeah, they connect. Like 3D Effects created a special interface um, that the chips could internally communicate to each other. Um, so they were able to keep in sync and trade data between each other. Of course, you do have like each rendering chip has its own bank of memory, and so even though it will say 64 megs, you only effectively have 32 megs because that data has to be duplicated across both chips um, in order for them both to be able to render the same frame each time.
mhm. Yeah, since Sukri mentioned Deus Ex there, and I did try it on this machine that's installed, and that's one that I noticed that like at the other ones I can go to 1024 and just kind of crank stuff, but my goodness, on the Deus Ex, I did not like that at all. So trying to sit back because the only real difference that's happened here is that they changed the anti-aliasing settings. So let's turn that off again. I'm just curious because that's literally the only thing that has changed for this game. Because I mean, it's not impossible to see Drone Drive is definitely on its way out, but it seems odd that we can read and find the game here on the maybe the Half-Life thing has just decided to corrupt our whole hard drive. Who knows?
Well, that would certainly cut the stream short, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to go to a backup computer or something at that point, but always come prepared. Yeah, that is bizarre because, yeah, I played this game literally yesterday on this machine, and it's not attempting to read or anything. It's just kind of freezing, so you have patch available for this guy. I think I patched it already. This doesn't... You can go to another game here, too. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but... Yeah, I think I patched it already. Because the patch that was the problem.
I don't know. It might be because it certainly didn't make Half-Life any better.
Yeah, I think I may have downloaded this patch and try and run it, and the patch then said this patch is for a different version. That has for Need for Speed 5 Porsche Unlimited. This is Unleashed, which I know Unlimited is probably just the name it was in Europe or something, but... Alright, well, we can switch to a different game now. I don't want to spend half the stream just troubleshooting this, but as part of the retro, so... A drive is, I think, not necessarily that it's toast, but it certainly could be on the way out. But we have definitely, I mean, I installed all the games you saw here on CD from the same drive. Including Windows on 8, actually. Alright. So, we always have Quake 3, because that has built-in benchmarks, and that is not a CD-based one. See what else we have on the desktop here. It boots surprisingly fast, considering, so... We have to listen to that delicious sound again, too, so... Or should we do Motor Racer? That's not a racing game that is ISO-based, so I don't have to worry about that. Let's do Motor Racer. I want to race. The ISO... there's no drive involved here, so...
That looks promising.
Yes, this one runs on all hard drive, of course, at that point, so... In the game. No. Alright, well, we're not here for intro sequences. We're here for racing. Speed. So this one, set to 2024 with the primary display driver. I don't think... If I remember, Motor Racer just kind of detects a... whatever you have available, if I remember right. When I was testing Motor Racer 1 with my Voodoo 1 card, to disable Voodoo, you had to go through a lot of messing around because it just finds the Voodoo and takes it, and that was it.
I have a lot more experience with the original Moto Racer because it's a really useful game for testing like really old graphics cards.
Yeah.
This one was released a year or two later. Obviously, it looks way nicer.
Yep, it's a good test for max speed. Mouse go, there it is. But runs quite well. I feel like, again, with the Motor Racer franchise, at least, is one of those games that just prioritizes like the feel of speed.
Yeah.
Comes a cat again.
This is using Direct3D, so we should have 2x AA enabled.
I disabled that, didn't I? We should go back and change that.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I think so, for troubleshooting purposes. Let's revert the most recent change. Cat one's up, which is fine, but then I always have that little hang of fears when she jumps up and loses her balance and uses me as a... uses her claws to hang on. That is my body, and that hurts. Do we dare make the changes with the game alt-tabbed, or do we want to exit out and...
Oh, not in Windows 98, no.
Okay. Come on, it's so stable. What's the problem?
No. And you have to reinitialize the render and everything.
Yep. That's probably asking a little too much. Lens flare, got the whole deal here.
Looks nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks, you know, in some ways comparable to Need for Speed, Porsche Unleashed.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, maybe the high stakes. Maybe more close to that, but...
Yeah. It is a little hard to drive this with a keyboard, because, yeah, it's such a on-off turn on something that's pretty sensitive, but... It's got to set up a reason for my poor performance, of course, so... Some of these, I spent a lot of time in this particular era playing a lot of those, like, dirt bike games, like Motocross Madness, insane. I think it's Edgar Tarantino's Extreme Bike Racing, which sounds ridiculous, but the only fun part of that game is that ragdoll physics. When your driver falls off, they just go into a total ragdoll, flopping around like crazy. And that made the game super fun, because then you take your motorcycle and smash into something, and the guy, oh, and here's the credits. You beat the game. Right? No, alright, let's go out and set the AA here now to do 2 or 4.
Oh, let's just see what 4 does.
Okay.
I'm trying to see. Someone suggested using a no CD patch
Mhm.
for Porsche Unleashed.
Yeah, we can grab that too. That's probably...
I'm seeing if I already have it or not, but I don't think I do. I have a patch, but I think it's just the retail patch. Maybe the ISO didn't need a patch for that.
What I might do is download the whole ISO here too, so I do have the game. Do that, and then let's try Motor Racer 2 again. Cranked! Cranked! Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm downloading the ISO for this game right now. It'll take a while to transfer to the thing here, but... Alright, let's see what we got. Easy, yes please. Ooh, a lot of cool tracks here. The Quick. Let's do the Quick. With the max speed, this can only go well. Oh, looks nice. It's definitely a little choppier to control. It's going to be hard to judge exactly on the stream. Obviously, we're doing like a triple layered beer goggle thing going on.
And it's not a slideshow.
No. Certainly playable, but you lose a little bit of that sense of speed. But it feels, at least watching on a CRT, I will say it certainly looks a little prettier, smoother around the edges. That's the whole point, of course.
Right. And that was like one of the big selling features of, you know, the Voodoo 5 especially, because it could do like the 4x anti-aliasing, like full screen anti-aliasing. 3FX kind of had this this whole shift at that time, whereas before their arguments for not supporting 32-bit color and high-res textures was, oh well, speed is all that gamers care about. They don't care about graphical features. And then when the Voodoo 5 came out, and you know, simultaneously they weren't the fastest around anymore, they were like, well, we have better image quality than the competition, so you know, hey, we got all those T-buffer features.
Yeah.
We can do motion blur, which they did actually provide a patch for Quake 3 to be able to do motion blur, which never actually messed with that myself, so I don't know all the ins and outs on it. But
no, I'm not a fan of motion blur. Like in modern games, when they implement like per object motion blur, that can look really good. But full screen motion blur, that's got to go off right away. I can't.
Yeah.
My brain doesn't like that.
It wasn't even like a great. I mean, it's an early implementation of motion blur, so you just kind of get, you know, objects kind of repeating at various gradient levels or various opacity levels. It's kind of like a smoother version of mouse trails.
Oh, jeez.
not exactly the same, because they're not, you know, mouse trails is not like opacity, like, you know, they're all the same opacity, but you know.
Mouse trails on a TFT laptop panel.
Right.
Now that's true blurriness. I had a lot.
If you just imagine Quake 3 running on a dual scan LCD panel from the early 90s.
Oh goodness, it's funny because I had a laptop for schoolwork and stuff like that. I used for gaming too, of course, but By the time I got rid of it, it was, of course, like anything like that with laptops, end up sitting forever. And I booted it up again to clean it out, and it's like, oh my goodness, like this screen is just terrible. The smearing was just insane. And you cannot get spoiled with modern panels now. They are really, really good. So, compared to especially laptops, how it used to be. But actually, on that same topic, I was chatting a little bit in my Discord because I found that Lenovo, which I've become kind of a fan of their panels, they're very clear and nice, bright colors on them. And they actually make a 4x3 monitor you can buy today, still being made. And that was appealing to me because a lot of these older 4x3s I have the problem with like smeary displays or, whatever. They're not very fast, especially the cheap ones that I have. Because my work was getting rid of them for a while, and they were like, take more. So I grabbed like 6, 4x3 monitors. And they're all your typical cheap business grade panel. But this is an IPS panel, 4x3. So someone on Discord then pointed me, there was some Walmart was selling it for refurb. I'm like, well, why not? It was like $50. So I bought it, and it was a manufacture date of 2013, but they still make the same panel today. So you buy a brand new one, you get a 2021, and it's really good. Nice. That's the 4x3 monitor I used in my Mr. video, for example. So,
see, I've you'll see them pop up on eBay, from Dell or HP. I bought a couple of them. They're like 1600 by 1200 native res.
Oh yeah.
They're not in production anymore, I don't think, from most companies. So it's a lot of like just e-waste companies dumping like old office equipment and things like that. And usually the way to do it is you got to find somebody that's selling a bunch of them for cheap. And it's actually the monitor I use is a Dell 1600 by 1200. And there's sometimes where there's like weird compatibility issues with like older graphics cards. I don't know why. So sometimes I have to fall back to a cheap TN panel.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it works great. I mean, especially if you're using it for like Windows XP era games, you know, being able to run things at like 1600 by 1200 native res on an IPS panel still looks really good. And of course, the ideal is a CRT.
Mm-hmm.
You're switching around resolutions a lot and things like that, but there's a lot of space savings.
Yes.
Getting with a LCD.
So the 2007 FP or something like that, or one of those.
Yeah, I think that is. It's like either 2007 or 2001 or something like that.
The ones with the video inputs too, like the component and S video and stuff, or.
I believe it has like just regular composite input or something like that.
The cool thing with those is that they sync to 15 kilohertz, so you can use an Amiga natively on that thing, for example. You don't have to use any scalers or converters. So that's why, those are really cool multi-use monitors for that stuff. You can play, plug in a Super Nintendo on that guy, then you'll just play on it. It should handle it just fine, so. But they're very useful for, those retro computers that many of them, if not all of them, want that low sync signal, 15 kilohertz, that most flat panels don't process, because why would they need to, This 2X seems like a good compromise there. It runs quite smooth, I feel.
And there's other ways to, like if you wanted to, you could do like 4X, but running 800 by 600 or something like that. It's just how sharp do you want it? How, smooth do you want the pixels?
Someone talked to Road Rash earlier. Where is my chain here? Can I kick these guys? Or I suppose that's frowned upon in this sport. But yeah,
we'll be right back.
Alrighty. I'm going to keep bouncing off things here. Whoa, and some bit of glitching going on there, like hopping around too, but it's kind of expected. I'm driving very, very poorly, of course. Trying to keep it on chat, but it's difficult when you're racing. I like the 2D camel standing on the wayside there. Yeah, the big one. I do have a... Oh, those CRTs were 1920. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I was going to say, I do have a 19-inch 1600 by 1200 CRT, which is really good. It's a Trinitron, like Dell rebranded. But, oh my goodness, it's huge and heavy. And I end up not using it a lot. I'm thinking of getting rid of it because even though it's really cool, it's just so heavy to use practically, especially the space. It's ginormous. Versus, I'm a big fan of the ViewSonic CRTs because at least the one I'm playing on here now, it's pretty short neck on it. And that makes a big difference in how you're going to fit it into your setup. If you can build some space around it, that's great. You can have a really, really big CRT, but that, of course, is the main concern, is fitting them into your setup. Yeah, I would love to. So what I'm running on right now is a ViewSonic 19-inch that does synchronize up to 16 over 1200. Yeah, this is a ViewSonic ES790. I think I can go to... Yeah, there's an action cam there. Yeah, so that's the CRT I'm playing on, but... yeah, 2X worked pretty well there. I am... Alright. Let's see if we can get this Porsche thing, because the ISO is now on the NAS, so... See how long it's going to take to copy that file over there, because that's the kicker, is when you get to this here now. We can talk about video cards or something. I kind of feel like I want to take a crack at this here to make this work.
Well, there was that that fake Twitter account that pretended to buy the rights to 3D effects.
Oh yeah, that whole thing. You need to
Uh,
fill us in on that guy here.
well, let's see. They claim to have started a new company, and they had purchased the rights, and they were going to produce new graphics cards, and they were going to label slap a bunch of appliances, TVs, cell phones, and things with the 3D effects brand. It
Very
all
well
sounded
trolled.
extremely extremely, I mean, probably why the troll worked is that it sounds very par for the course for like companies that don't really understand a brand who
Yeah.
are trying to cash in on the nostalgia. Like, it sounds almost plausible, sadly.
Mm-hmm.
You could almost just kind of imagine like somebody, like getting a bunch of cheap Chinese products and just slapping 3D effects on it just because they bought the
Yeah.
rights.
So did they actually... I know that this ended up being basically a big troll thing, but did they actually buy the patent or the name for real? Was this actually
No, none of
legitimate?
it, not any of it was real at
It was
all.
all fake. Okay, I was gonna say, because I mean, I remember
And
when the announcement came out, and it was like everyone was like, "Well, could be," but then people
yeah,
were like, and then it started getting more and more ridiculous. Like, yeah, we're bringing back all the boxes and all the original graphics cards, and then we'll make fridges, and I mean, it just got so...
to the credit of some members on my Discord server, pretty much the first day that those tweets started coming out, there was a couple members that went and looked up the patent records and
Mm-hmm.
the just to see if anybody had picked up the rights, and there was, because a lot of that information is publicly
Yeah,
available, and there was no info at all. There was no record of anybody
really.
even in the process of starting to acquire it. So
Yeah,
it all
just
sounded like complete bull crap.
it did as soon as you dug into it. But just Mike just made a good point there too, because a lot of retro revivals are happening, right? So it didn't seem like... I mean, hardware is a different story altogether. Like, Apogee's making games again, Microprose making games again. It all felt, you know, there was a glimmer of hope there, but then of course the BS started spilling pretty fast. um, but yeah. Hey, Cutting
Hey,
Edge
Cutting Edge
Retro,
Retro.
welcome. You're watching Progress Bars from work. Thank you to
Yeah,
joining the Progress Bar Hour.
this is a real retro channel and a real retro stream. You don't get like the sugar coated, like, here are the highlights.
No,
You
no.
you got to be here with us in the trenches,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with patches and copying files and getting this stuff to work.
Yeah, make sure you only, when you clip this later, anyone who wants to clip for fan stuff here, make sure you clip the progress bars only or the things that are breaking. So, but yeah, it's part of the experience.
Uh,
At least you get this ISO component
to
now.
be
So
fair, Rick is a very prepared person, and he did have all the stuff working ahead of time. Except Half Life, he couldn't get Half Life to work before, but
yeah,
this game was working, he said, and then it stopped working.
yeah.
So
So to address a couple of those things that people have asked there, as far as um, Yeah, Half-Life did really self-implode, didn't it? The more we patched it, the worse it got. So, Scanda's cast me around this drive before. I will say I saw this particular issue with that patch thing. Or not the patch thing, just the error that we originally started with. Just the one error, not the 16 errors. I had seen this on this machine before on another hard drive. So I'm not sure if that particular CD is broken or something else is up with that. So I'll try to uninstall it and do a clean install separately. Then as far as like copying the ISO, so this is I think it's a 10 megabit NIC. It does have enough streaming, but I find it much preferable to copy the ISO locally. It's going to run just generally better versus
Yeah.
just waiting for seek times. Yes, which might be faster than a CD, but it's retro network, so let's not put it too high up on a pedestal here. So, but yeah.
Uh, Document everything says actually enjoy building,
Hmm.
troubleshooting, fiddling, more than gaming most of the time.
Oh yeah.
That's how you know you are a true PC gamer.
Hmm.
Uh, that's when we were talking before Rick and I was kind of making fun because he was at the LAN party mostly installing
Yeah,
stuff.
for hours.
Everybody's playing a game and he's watching progress bars.
Yeah, I know, and it's funny because I had people walk by then who hadn't. I mean, this is not a retro LAN, right? So a lot of those people haven't seen a retro computer in a long time, and they're like, "Oh, what do you have in there?" Pentium 3. What? It's real? And then I showed them I brought basically one of those little CD, like it's just a paper box that has just CD cases in it. So I just like threw it up on desk, and people are like, "Oh my goodness, Half-Life! Oh wow, Porsche Unleashed!" They all remember these games
Yeah.
they haven't seen themselves for years. Versus me, like I just brought what I could fit. I have 200 more games, so
Yeah, my favorite are, when you get these because a lot of the people I work with are PC gamers,
mhm.
but they're too young to have known any of this stuff.
Oh yeah,
So, you would if I were to mention 3D effects to them, they'd be like, "Who?"
yeah, exactly. That's part of the fun too. And I work with a few old timers that have been in the industry for a long time, but they weren't really. I mean, they were gamers back then, but most of the stories I hear are like, "Oh yeah, we used to have stacks and stacks of those video cards. We threw them all out in 2000." Like, or like my coworker who used to run his own computer shop, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I had just rows of old IBMs and who knows what." And yeah, we just chucked all that stuff in the dumpster. I'm like, "Oh well, don't even tell me that." But yeah, it's
Elias says, "Yeah, I think I spent more time tweaking stuff at LAN parties in the '90s than
oh yeah.
gaming." And I think really that's kind of my memory of LAN parties. I didn't
Hmm.
go to a ton of them, but I went to a handful, and like in the early 2000s, it seemed like most of the time you were just trying to get the computers to talk to each other,
Yeah.
and then making sure everybody had the same games installed. If they didn't, we were sharing around games. Don't
Hmm.
ask.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And and making sure they were all patched to the same version.
Yep.
And so it was just a lot of like, and then somebody would be like, "Oh, my computer keeps crashing." So we would
Yep.
gather around and help that person troubleshoot. And one time, like, I'm sitting at a table, and one of those fold out tables, right? And across to me, kind of diagonally on the other side of the table, the person's power supply explodes violently. Like it jets out like a flash of some kind of a, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
and shoots out the back, and like this loud explosion.
Goodness.
Just and we didn't
Whoops.
really have like an extra power supply or anything, so he was just kind of out of commission for the rest of the
Wow.
night.
What are you gonna do? That's the thing. It's like you can just go to whatever. I mean, I guess you could find hardware easier back then, perhaps with Radio Shack and Circuit City and all this stuff. But still, you were just SOL. But yeah, most of the time it was like, yeah, someone mentioned copying. That was a good way to replenish your music library. It was going to those LAN parties. But I,
Oh yeah, there's a lot of passing around
yeah.
data unscrupulously.
Hmm. I went. My cousin one time called me and like, um, we're teenagers, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to a friend who's in college, and he has a dorm room, and he's getting as many people he can't fit in a dorm room." We were literally like, um, 6 people networked in a dorm room, people sleeping like in the bathroom and just cramming in there. It was super fun, but I brought my Pension 2 300, which just had random problems. And I mean, thinking back to it now, it must have been a bad motherboard or corrupt hard drive or something. But this was the time when the guy that lived in that dorm room, he had Windows 98, which had just come out in these circles. I'm like, I gotta get Windows 98 installed on my machine while I'm here. It's so cool. I spent probably a day straight because every time we would install it, like we would just run it and it would just get corrupted and error out.
Uh,
I got there in the end, but it was probably the sixth or seventh reinstallation attempt before it got there. So I'm sure I had something that was just corrupting it on the fly, basically. Um, and then we ended up playing Total Annihilation, like 4 player or something like that, and it was glorious. He played on an older computer, and it's one of those where you build like you turtle so long to build like 20, 30 anti-aircraft guns, and then someone sent like 100 aircraft against him, and my computer was sluggish at that, a Pentium 2 300. But I looked over at his, and it was like a frame a minute. It was just stop, stop, you know?
oh God.
So, good times. Good times.
I never went to a dorm, but I've heard many people talk like that was always like the ultimate like landing
Hmm.
experience was being in a dorm and everybody having a computer hooked up to
Yeah.
the same network. So there'd just be like these crazy online matches of
Oh, yeah.
like RTS games and things.
Yeah, this guy was just describing that too, living in dorm, because he's like, I usually, they have a very, very good network in that college, of course. So
Yeah.
he was just like, yeah, a new game drops and it's usually on our, on our little network within a few hours. Like, it's just good grief.
Aaron did ask if we talked about the Quake um remake, or
Hmm.
if you want to call it a remake. We did actually talk about that earlier, but I know I played it. I don't think Rick has yet, but
Nope,
I did
not yet.
like it.
I like to try it, and have the setup for it and everything to play that on CRT. Excuse me, but I'm also curious to try it on the ultra wide. I think we mostly talked about how, at least from my perspective, I really like that they didn't upgrade it. They didn't, completely hose it and didn't do a half baked update. It was a proper, true one that seemed to listen to what the community wanted. So that
Yeah,
is very cool. And
a lot of the features, a lot of the enhancements you could get for the most part from like fan updates and
mhm,
stuff. There was like source ports of Quake that allowed you to run in high res with different features and stuff.
yeah,
This I don't know if it's actually based on, I don't know what engine it's based on, but it is kind of a nice out of the box experience where they created a custom interface that you
mhm.
can change the settings on. And it's a proper development house, Night Dive Studios, that did
Yep.
it. So
MVG, or Modern Vintage Gamer, I think was the lead developer on this port. So really big YouTuber. I think he
oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah,
cool.
I think he did a lot of like emulators and stuff for Xbox and stuff back in the day, and he's written several things. So he works for Night Dive Studios now. I think he's been helping port some of the Shantae games, I think, to Switch. But yes, I think we can definitely say now this is not the CD-ROM drive. So maybe we should uninstall Porsche Unleashed. We're this far, this deep now. Uninstall the game and reinstall it from this ISO, because then it takes the CD out of the mix. Because clearly, this did not.
Yeah, you could be getting
Hmm.
corrupted data in the first place.
Yep. Um, But yeah, that's I think that's right. That I like that they did this, and especially like watching videos on it or hearing impressions on this Quake thing. It's just like they kind of just did what the community wanted, and they added a lot of little flares and extra stuff, and they didn't just do
I
a.
love it when they hire somebody from like within the community that kind of is
Mhm.
in touch with what everybody kind of wants.
Yeah, exactly. Stay true to it,
Uh,
because I mean, all these fans are the ones that are going to buy this in the first place. So
yeah. Well, I mean, you don't even have to buy it if you, as long as
yeah,
you own. Probably at some point in like the 10+ years that you've had Steam, you've
mhm,
probably acquired Quake at some point. You
probably.
know, and you probably don't even know you have it. You just look in your library and oh,
Oh,
when
there
did
you
I get
go. Yeah, that's
that?
how half
so
my library is.
so
Like,
So most likely, most of you guys are gonna have it already. If you install Quake, it's not gonna say anything different. But if you go to your library and you install Quake and then you go to play it, it's gonna give you the option to play the original or the new one.
I'm just rocking out to that. I don't know, the fact that you have that such satisfying music at the start of Windows 98 there if you leave it. It feels so good to get a fresh install of Windows 98 good going, all drivers, and you're like, yeah, now we're
You could probably just have that song play as your startup if you put
probably,
it
but it's not the same. The fresh feeling. So, all right, we'll uninstall Porsche Unleashed, and then we will reinstall it using the ISO, taking the CD out of the mix completely. And you know what? I'm just going to reboot for the heck of it, because at this point it's 98. I don't trust anything now. We've had to do several hard reboots because of the issue, so let's do a quick, clean reboot here and see.
Jam says Windows 98 SE destruction speed run.
Hold my beverage, yeah.
Uh, I don't know why people have such a problem with Windows 98 because especially the SE version. This is the SE
Mhm.
one version, right?
I feel like that's probably the best, like, 9x
Yeah, you don't want
broadest
to mess with
coverage.
the one before because it just
Mhm.
doesn't have as much support for. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just easier to work with SE.
95 is
Uh,
a nostalgic feeling for me. That's probably the biggest
yeah,
thing, that I keep it on a Pentium 1 class machine. It feels so era appropriate.
that's
So,
that's that's good for that. Like I have like my only Windows 95 machine is an old ThinkPad laptop, but
mhm.
it's part of it, right? I mean, it's as much a part of this machine as any of the hardware is. I just feel like Windows, especially because IBM loaded up a bunch of custom programs on there and everything. It's like it's a complete software experience that
Mhm.
meld with the hardware and in the experience of using
Yeah,
that
exactly.
laptop. But like for like testing and things like that, Windows 98 SE is the way to go for any kind of 9X type
Oh yeah.
stuff. Even like the older, when I'm testing like the original Voodoo or anything within that same era, I still use 98 SE,
Mhm.
and it's just easier to work with, especially if you want to like transfer data and use USB drives and
Oh
things
yeah.
like that.
It's just streamlined so well. And it really is the perfect convergence of that. And especially what I had fun even at that LAN party there was, playing DOS-based games. And um, I had Duke Nukem 3D, or, you still have that full DOS support then with the correct components in the machine. You have a machine that has quite a broad range. I mean, a fairly powerful Pentium 3 feel like the best bang for your buck from a 90s gaming perspective. Um, but yeah,
And you can get like 1 gigahertz Pentium threes. I mean they're pretty common.
yeah, installation complete. You don't get that EA updater. No, thank you. But I guess we'll install it. At this point, I'm not taking anything for granted. No, we have the little screen below us now, but we ended up being talking heads while we're doing this. After EA game update has installed, click on OK. You know this was two different teams that work on these two different installation processes. Click OK when you're done. Yes, I would like a shortcut. Oh, I don't want DirectX. Register later, I think.
So this will be the unpatched version. So hopefully that.
Yep, that's unpatched, so we'll see then. So let's go back here, and then let's see what happens. So this is cold run here now of this game.
And we have
Install.
AA disabled. I don't remember.
It's in 2x, I think,
Okay.
on Direct3D. Wow, yeah, something is really host here now. Let's reinstall DirectX or something like that. It's funny that it's just Need for Speed that's experiencing this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
Maybe try disabling that force 32-bit.
Yeah, that's true. That is a change in the setting. Yeah, there's cat hair everywhere. Goodness. All right, we'll try one more time with the 32x, then we'll probably go to Quake 3. That's true. If this game doesn't like that, because that is basically a driver level override, right? So,
Yeah, although it's only for OpenGL and Glide mode, so
mhm,
unless it's booting directly into that, it
could
shouldn't
be
affect it. But
retro and shouldn't. At least this machine reboots pretty quickly. I will say I'm happy about that. It does not sit very long. It hasn't
hey,
been.
I don't ever get tired of seeing the Voodoo 5 splash screen.
That's
So
true. Yeah, I was watching the Tech Tangent. He had a Voodoo 5. I think he had a recap, right? I felt the frustration through his video about not getting the splash screen correctly and everything. So, but yeah, I'm so relieved so far. This card has been just rock solid. I don't
yeah,
think the card has been a problem. And I mean, when I took it out of the box, it was basically minty fresh. The way the gentleman described was that he used it for a little bit. He used it most for playing flight sims. He used it for a little bit, and then he put it in the box, and it's been sitting in a closet since. And his kid was actually there too, playing, and they were playing games together, which I thought was awesome. And he was like, "Yeah, I don't think Dad would ever sell that thing or get it out of the closet." It's like he probably didn't make as much money as he would have selling it on the Bay, but it went somewhere where it will most definitely be used. So, all right, this is the 416-bit textures. No, not that
No.
one. It's the rendering color depth. Software controlled. Thank you very much. We will set it back to the regular on Direct3D. So now we're back to the setting that I actually did run this game successfully with. So, drum roll, please. Spinning disc, real spinning disc. Look at that.
Hey.
It's got to be that 1632 was bang thing. So the CD-ROM drive was not broken. I told you this. Flawless. And that will break next now. Who knows? Now we're running with an ISO.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that was.
See, that's part of the experience.
It's always one of those. It's always one of those things like.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this could have been solved so much earlier if we hadn't messed with this one setting from before.
But
like...
it was like a defining feature setting, right? Because it felt like a thing. See, I even have frosted tips in here because I had hair like that in the 90s. Thank you very much. So I have like dark brown hair.
You don't seem that old. I can't believe that you're.
I'm hitting 40 here in a month or so. So yeah. I'm a geriatric millennial, I think they call it, right? I hate that term, but it is what it is. No, in high school, I wanted to be different, I guess, because everyone wants to be different in high school. So I had my mom help me bleach my hair, so I got dark brown hair. And I came in one day with just shock blonde hair, and I combed it back, so standing. It was like a Bart Simpson hairdo, really. And and my math teacher, he was like, he couldn't even process it. He was like, "What did you do? Fall off your bike?" And I'm like, "What?" Yes, I fell off my bike and got blonde hair. It's like... nice try, swing and a miss on that joke, but it got me some attention.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why you were confused. I mean,
yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. So we have 1024 by 768. And I will also, for the record, say, for the streaming here, right, the kicker here now, if I were to stream at integer scale, meaning I keep it at the exact same scale, or expand it to be a multiplication of it, it's going to be very hard to keep this over here. This window looking okay on the stream. So what I do is that I basically rescale it to 1280 by 960. That's what you're looking at. So don't take everything you're seeing on the screen for, like, you know, true thing. I have to do that to accommodate streaming because we're switching resolution left and right. If I didn't set a fixed resolution on the stream and also scale it so it looks decent, you would see the window resizing constantly, right? So keep that in mind. There's always a area scaling effect in play. So. But you're also watching through compression, so...
Under screen size on there, you should be able to select 32-bit color.
I cannot.
516. What?
Oh. So I must be using the... Yeah, we can look at advanced settings here. You want your headlights vertex or projected? Lens flare on? Well, duh.
Well, projected I think is more advanced. But
okay.
Because it's doing a projection texture
instead
of, like, basic... vertex lighting.
See, I knew I brought you on for a reason here, so... I don't know any of these things here. It's funny, because now,
well,
like...
I kind of invited myself. So.
Yeah. It's pretty funny that...
is there a setting for... Because somebody said it supports glide.
I don't think so. It went directly in here to this. Oh my goodness, that's just... Like, I did not see a setting for this. We can go out of the game now. We don't know what to launch this. And see
I've never seen a setting for glide, so I don't know where that is.
Yeah, now there's no real way to tell what it's using, right? Except for the 3D effects logo should come up if it's glide, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think
we didn't see it, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there.
Because it might not start rendering. Like Motorhead doesn't show it until you get into the game, right? So
yeah.
Do a quick race here. So this I had a lot of fun with this game because friends and we would get together with LAN parties, like small ones, which is like 4 or 5 of us. And we all had steering wheels, so we'd race this, and we'd take the supercars, the GT1 and the 917, and on the fastest track, and we would just try and get there the fastest, and that was just a lot of fun. And inevitably, you turn around, try and crash. That's just... We gotta have a red turbo, obviously. Let's see if we see a splash screen. Nope, no splash screen, so... But it might have a setup outside, so...
3, 2,
Yeah, I always patched my game, so I don't know if maybe that enables more
yeah.
settings, but...
Runs quite well, so... Like I say, one thing that it feels like, I know, I watch several channels that focus on, you know, modern graphics and stuff like that too, just fascinating, but the idea that because you have a powerful video card, you should be able to anymore crank every setting possible. And that seems like it's becoming less realistic anymore because, you know, developers put in extra overhead. And I remember Red Dead Redemption 2 launched on PC. Whoa! We have a rear-engine, rear-wheel drive turbo car here now.
you got a nice scenic view of the water there.
Yeah. I was trying to not spin out, so I'll take your word for it.
You held on. I like that.
Yeah. The Widowmaker cars.
This is actually one of the best looking tracks in the game, I think.
Yeah, I think so. But I was going to say, it seems like they program in a lot of overhead of extra features and things with anticipation for the future, and people get, like, upset when you can't max out a game on day one. And that's not always the case anymore, it feels like, so...
Yeah. Aaron says from Cutting Edge Retro that it should have a 3D settings, like EXE, that you run outside the game.
Yeah, let's check that after here.
It might be buried in the program files menu or something.
Yeah. I have several members playing this game too. I remember hearing about it. It's like, it's just Porsche? I mean, I like Porsche, but it seems a little limited. And like, yeah, it's super fun, so. Oh.
Yeah, I can't say I'm like a major like Porsche fan or anything like that, but like, you know, there's you can see what like you can see how big the upgrade is from high stakes going to this game, like in terms of like just the size of the environments and the textures and the lighting and the detail in the cars themselves is a major step up.
Sun flare.
Lots of sun flare.
Yep. It's interesting because I didn't, so I actually have high stakes in, I had the box for it in Europe, and it's called Road Challenge, and it's, I don't know why they didn't call high stakes, but a little odd translation or why they changed it, but yeah, the high stakes is the one you constantly racing to win the other player's car, right? And you kind of upgrade and work your way up that way, I think.
I haven't played a ton of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I definitely play more of this one.
Okay. Because I should try it, because I was trying to, I installed the version I had, which is Road Challenge, but I think that's the one, so. So interesting, I prefer driving inside of the car. I feel like I can position things better, so I always do the unrealistic bumper cam. That feels like the best way for me to drive racing games. I actually have a harder time driving outside, because I feel I'm disconnected from the vehicle, so.
Supposedly, I guess he's saying,
Hello.
He's saying the in-car view is not, what? How did you do that?
Dude, you just... I think that's like a trick shot with your Porsche. It was standing on the front panel.
That was an amazing balancing act. See,
yeah, see,
only Porsche cars can do that.
Yes, they're perfectly balanced.
Advertisement.
Yep, perfectly balanced. Didn't see that in the ads, but... Wow. I still won. You know, I'm not a huge fan when you lose control of the car at the end there. I'm like, still racing. I want to do cool. Ah, yes, and the save the thing is a floppy icon.
Yeah, that's actually how I benchmark that game. Is I save the replay.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea. Yeah.
And it renders in Direct3D mode, so I can use wraps.
Let's take a look in the directory and see if there is an executable. Now we know the game launches, so we can get right back into it. But I didn't find one or saw one in Updater, NFS5, Porsche. This looks like a
3D setup.
Aha, there it is. Yep, I know that's the one we're... So, okay. That's not a lot of options.
That's... Yeah. Great.
Great.
All right, well, there's a config file. Maybe there's more detail in there.
Yeah. Ah, there we go. So, we have Voodoo 3. The Voodoo 5 is not listed here, but I would assume Oh my goodness, it's got the DX and GX Virgin here.
I cannot imagine playing this game
Oh.
with Verge.
Yeah, no, sorry, Elias. I know you were talking about the fact this has to be Glide because the in-car view is only rendered in Glide. I'm just curious to look and see because we always want to get into the tweaking and settings if we can, but this is a fascinating setup too. The fact that it just has these listed
Voodoo
out.
doesn't even let you choose though. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know, Mike, if you had a Voodoo, yeah, you'd probably want to run Glide, but I mean, just to even try it out in Direct3D mode, we don't have the option.
So it must be. So this is register key for it, but the fact, because I mean, clearly these are in here or card software, right? That is fascinating setup. So
Yeah, I don't know.
should we crank the AA then for Glide and see what happens? Because we didn't see
Yeah.
the unless it's open GL. I guess is there any?
Oh, you're going for the big one. Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. We'll see. I've never tried it myself.
See if we can do any trick shots here on. We did disable the anti-aliasing for the Direct3D, thinking that might have been part of the problem. So okay, Jam, I'll take your word for it. There.
Jam says S3 Verge is the most powerful card released.
Mm-hmm.
It
Absolutely.
just has drivers that are poorly optimized. If it was using 100% of its power, it would be faster than an RTX 3090.
The decelerator.
You know, that's a possibility, because these old cards from these obscure companies, a lot of times the drivers were the biggest bottleneck, and you never know what the potential performance could have been. I mean, it might have been, far into the future in terms of performance.
Sure.
Can you just drive it like that with the sheet on it?
Yeah, I'll say. That'd be great. Is the model rendered correctly then? Oh, so it just doesn't have the car model, but it... Oh.
Yeah, you haven't downloaded, you haven't, unlocked it or whatever.
That's what I just did, so... Found the turbos, but... I'm not a huge car guy. Well, I'm quite the car guy, but I went to a drag racing event one time, just a spectator, and there was two late 90s 911 turbos that were souped up racing each other, and that sound, those two turbo sixes just blaring at full speed and turbo noises, that was a glorious sound.
3, 2, 1, go!
So this is yeah, definitely is more sluggish now, so we must be an OpenGL or at least, Glide, so it looks pretty, but
it's not a slideshow though.
No,
I mean,
it's
it may
not.
only be like 20 frames or so, but like
certainly fully playable. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people enjoy the game.
I mean, anybody that played games on a Nintendo 64 would be like, "Oh, this is incredibly smooth."
Oh yeah, absolutely. And if we had started like this would have been considered smooth, I think too. It's just we came from very smooth, so. It's recently called the Porsche's Widowmakers there for a while, so.
Something about the color palette of this game.
Yeah, it's very well balanced, I think. It has a lot of nice color pops and...
I don't know, everything just kind of like the textures and the lighting and everything just melds together. It just looks very attractive.
Yeah.
The finished frame is really nice looking.
The N64 has become a punching bag because it's easy to rag on. It's like, it's still an amazing console, but let's be real on the performance out of that console. That's probably the thing that the biggest thing for me is the raw performance that you get in those games. They're pretty sluggish.
Hey, at one point I praised the look of the N64 with its filtered textures.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I find that look very nostalgic, because I did not have a PlayStation. I was a Nintendo 64 kid, so those blurry textures are, that's my nostalgia. Like,
yeah, exactly.
When I play Quake, I don't like the pixelated textures as much as I like them smoothed out.
Now I'm doing what I always do in racing games, that I just consistently pressing harder and harder on the forward key to go faster. It's just subconscious.
See, the performance is always better when you're in first place. So you just make sure you don't play poorly.
No promises there.
You stay in first place, and the performance will be great.
We're gonna see the amazing car model. I'm just terrible at driving outside the car. So, although I mean, not exactly realistic to sit on the bumper, too. I think I saw someone that had taken an engine out of a car, and they were doing service or whatever, and they put a seat in the engine bay, and he was sitting with steering wheel there. It was a fun joke, and that's kind of a bumper cam is, but um, I just have a hard time, like, gauging, which makes no sense. I should have a better spatial awareness outside the car, but it always feels better inside it, so...
Oh yeah, and that's another point too that Cutting Edge Retro brought up is like most, I want to say most, but so many N64 games also had that 4-player split screen.
Oh,
so
yeah.
like you're not dealing with the full frame rate. Like
Mhm.
you whatever performance it had with single player is now reduced because you have to render like 4 different screens.
Yep.
Granted at lower resolutions, and sometimes they would even optimize it so like the draw distance would be reduced or something like
Whoa.
that.
I can't recover from this. Wrong way, I can tell. Engine distance support to be going forward. Todd Jane mentioned earlier, too, the graphics, I mean, it feels like every generation back then felt like, well, they can't possibly get any better than this. I remember, like, when Gears of War came out, it's like, well, this just looks ridiculous, looks real, you know, and now you look at graphics, I almost forget, because I'm out of the loop on the brand new games, and you see one of these, military shooter or something with ultra-realistic graphics, and, like, just ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
I mean, I've never enjoyed like games that kind of model real life
Mm-hmm.
as much as I did like for the fantastical games that were like more. See, those shadows, those tree shadows in the cars too, are really
Mm-hmm.
pretty sophisticated for the time there.
Yeah. This was 2000, right? We determined.
Yeah.
But yeah, it runs really well, and I think, again, that's where the Voodoo cars are so nice. Of course, we have the 5 here now, so it's, cranking out as much power as you can. But it looks a lot cooler than how I drove there.
All you need is a really good camera angle.
Yeah, exactly. It looks just great. But, that's why I think that, look at this view here.
I always love it when there's like a really backed up camera view during the
Mhm.
replay, and I like smash into a wall and then
Oh,
I have to
yeah.
back up and then go back forward.
Whee!
It's like the most comedic framing of the.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that was great. I used to, a friend and I used to play Forza 3, I think, on Xbox. And, you race and then you get bored. So what we did is we took SUVs, which are in that game too, and we souped them up as much horsepower as possible. And we tuned it so the suspension was in max setting. So it was super high ride height. And you hit the floor, you floored it, and hit the brake, and it would just roll over. I mean, just like that. It was like a clown car. So we were then trying to do jousting. Look at my character model in there. Full character model. With the steering wheel and everything.
I don't think graphics will ever get better than this.
No, it's just, that's it. Peaked. But we would just joust each other, and then the SUV would just keep rolling and rolling. You watch a replay of that poor car just rolling back and forth, and every time you hit the gas, it would just kind of like do this little kneel maneuver because the suspension was so soft and so tall.
Honestly, like
Oh,
I mean,
wait.
this is
Fine. Look
that's
at that.
exactly what I'm doing. And now you got a big ass dent on the side.
That's fine. Majestic scenery and like amazing camera view, and just smack. Well, that's $50,000 repair bill.
Yeah, no. What were we talking about? I don't even.
Yeah, I don't know. More racing. I guess we haven't tried Quake 3. That feels like the one we need to do as well.
Oh, I was gonna say, I mean, it was running incredibly smooth there with the 4XAA.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's not 60 FPS, but I mean, with a card of this era, like 4 times anti-aliasing, like that is a lot to ask.
yeah.
Oh God, you still have it enabled though.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, it's the mouse cursor is moving a little slower. We have to disable that here.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna be able to do that here.
Yeah, we'll kick out of that. That's a little aggressive. There we go. Oh, if they release like a remaster like Need for Speed Bundle or something. Oh, yeah. That would be amazing. As far as performance, like, I think the biggest thing you need to remember is that there's a lot more performance to be gained, I think, by having faster... That's totally a legit license key there. like the memory and hard drive and all that stuff and CPU is period accurate. So this would have been a realistic machine to play this on. Nothing crazy. And again, there's more performance to be squeezed out of the Voodoo, I think, with higher performance processor. But if you if you had this machine, this would have been realistic. 6 months apart, I think, the processor and the Voodoo card release dates. So, right, I can win. And I'm almost leaning more to go with these like period accurate machines. I have a lot more fun with them almost than the pure overpowered.
Yeah. And I don't blame anybody for doing that, because if you're
No.
really going for the experience of the time, like the only reason I like overpowered CPUs is because, you know, I'm making videos about the graphics card.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to benchmark the system. I
No.
just want to benchmark the graphics card. And so I have to, all the other hardware in the system has to get out of the way
Exactly.
and let the graphics card do what it can actually do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just playing for fun and you're just enjoying the system and the era of the time and trying to experience everything that time period had to offer,
Mm-hmm.
like, you should really build a system that where all the parts complement each other appropriately.
Yeah. It's a fun way to experience it. And actually, one thing that's actually interesting lead to is, so I made, I'm not sure if you saw on Twitter, but I ordered a few business cards. And they're printed like a floppy.
I don't even have business cards.
I know, Vista print is cheap, dude. What I did is I took a free GIF of a free image of a floppy, and I put that on the Square business card, so it looks like that. So, but whoa,
Wow, you beat the tutorial level.
yay, on easiest difficulty. Ranger, Obos.
We're pushing your skills here.
Yeah. But one of the guys there that was one of the arrangers for the event that was at, which had many people working for volunteers and all this stuff, and all the proceeds went to charity. So that's kind of they do it twice a year. And I was gonna say, one of the guys that took my card, and he said he would love to do a retro LAN, but the problem is sourcing machines and equipment. I'm like, well, I felt they'll have to help you there. So I was going to see if he reaches out to me, because I would love to be part of sponsoring and figuring out a full Windows 98 retro LAN here. I've made 4 to 10 machines or something like that. So
well, if you got enough hardware for that, then yeah, by all means.
yeah. All right, Suka, thanks for stopping by. It's getting late there too. All right, we'll do hurt me plenty, and then we'll see what happens when I get hurt plenty. So oh, there's an FPS command.
Scorpion, yeah, wants you to put in the console command there.
And that is CG draw
underscore
FPS.
draw. Yeah. I think you need a space. Yeah.
There we go. I said it. So take that,
no,
bots.
you need a backsplash.
Oh, okay.
Underscore.
Oops.
Draw.
Yeah. The trigger, there we go. This keyboard is not very good to type on. I had to put a better keyboard here. Okay, there we go. There it is. Oh, we locked 60 so far.
This is at what resolution again?
12 or 1024, I think.
There's actually a surprising number of games that the Voodoo 5 can play at 1280 by 10.
Yeah, we can try it. If I can do 1280 by 960, we'll be at native rest with the capture here, so.
I don't know that this game's kind of weird about that. It may not have that as an option.
Oh, okay.
So you may get a little distorted scaling, but whatever. We're just looking at the...
Yeah. I up the difficulty, and that's the expected outcome, I'm just saying. I'm playing with a ball mouse and everything, so we got true experience here now.
Oh, respect. Okay.
Yeah. An old compact, like, 46 era mouse.
You really are going for an authentic experience.
Yep.
Although they had the first optical mice by like 99, didn't they? It's like
oh, they probably did, but That's I got actually.
The Microsoft like IntelliMouse optical.
Yeah, the problem I have, the PS2 KVM I'm using just does not like scroll wheels. At least the ones I've tried on it, just goes like haywire with inputs. Um, it's not reading it
Tyler
correctly.
Tyler Jane Bronson says, "I'm seeing a serious lack of strafe jumping."
Oh yeah, I'm not good at Quake 3. I think that should be pretty apparent by now.
It's not a big level. It's not as though you gotta like traverse a large expanse here.
Oh, I ran out of ammo right there. I almost had you, bro. Almost had you. Yeah, because I mostly run older machines, I tend to favor PS2 configuration in general. Aha! Because it's more compatible for my older machines, so when I do play with a machine that is primarily USB, I have to plug in that separately because my KVM doesn't support it. So it's kind of like a...
I actually have this old PS2 optical mouse. I think it's from Logitech, but it's like it's a pretty old one. But I use it on the ThinkPad laptop that I was talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Windows 95. I just completely do not do ball mice at all.
Yeah, I have a, I think it's like, I got it from work, like old Wise Thin Client peripherals. So PS2 keyboard and USB, or not, PS2 mice with optical sensors on them. So I got a few of those. They do work pretty well as well. But I've just stuck with this really old compact 2-button mouse. So let's see if I can put it up on the stream here. We'll catch up to you in a while here, but yeah, it's old school for real.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, you can't even switch weapons that quickly.
Nope, I had to figure out the key combination.
Kudos to Quake 3 for having early support for like the
Yeah.
mouse wheel and like weapon switching.
Quake 3 felt so streamlined. Like, it's just good to go. Like, it's so slick and did exactly what it wanted to do, feels like, so.
I wonder if Quake 3 was the first FPS to have like scroll wheel weapon switching.
Yeah. Doesn't Unreal have that too? Unreal Tournament? The Quake...
Yeah, is it?
I don't know.
I don't know now. I'm trying to remember if I used it or not.
Yeah.
Because, you know, that's one of those things you don't think about, so...
No, it's just muscle memory at that point. I'm trying to think. I probably used number keys for that. Of course, it doesn't help because I play with...
Maybe chat will tell us.
Sounds like Unreal Tournament
Jam
does.
says Unreal Tournament does, yeah.
Okay. That didn't go so well. Is there anything else we were going to try? Okay, I'm just going to the next here now, so... Yeah, I'm a big fan of Unreal Tournament as far as, like, multiplayer shooter because of all the modes. That does make it a lot of fun.
Did you want to try it at a higher res?
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right. So I wonder if I could do it from here.
System.
Oops.
Yeah. It doesn't have 1280 by 960,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Now we have, because my capture software there is not configured for that little glitch in the bottom there, so I can fix that here quick too. Let's fix that real quick.
It's not that noticeable.
Okay. The perfectionism. Notice when you're making videos and stuff, it's like, I could just spend a little more time tweaking this.
But notice it's running at 60 FPS still, so...
Yeah. So this is pulling in, yeah, 12 with 10. There we go, all gone. Because the data path is so pixel, I mean, it really is pixel perfect on a lot of things. I have to have like a pre-configured settings that basically kicks in, so. Are you suggesting VSync on here now? We do get a lot of tearing, but we get the raw performance now, but it looks really good at this.
I don't know, I mean, you know me, I like to see how these things perform, so...
Yeah, here's Quake 3 running on a period accurate machine at
Yeah, I mean the CPU is not the fastest available for the time,
Mm-mm.
and yet this is. I mean, it's a little up and down here and there. Like you are hitting like the 40s in places, but
Mm-hmm.
like it's still pretty smooth.
Whee! Just all these arena shooters, I just forget how fast you move. And it's fun to think back to the mid 2000s when the, knee-high cover thing with Gears of War came around. Everything started moving slow.
Yeah.
And then Doom came around. It's like, hold my shotgun, and just flying in the Doom 2016
Right.
one. And it felt like it
I
revitalized the boomer
That's what I
shooter.
love about that game. And like they added so much as far as traversing the game, because I remember reading a developer uh interview or something about Doom 2016, and the where you can I'm trying to remember, it's not a fatality, but where you can finish an enemy off
Mm-hmm.
and they're like glowing and you can do that button press.
Yeah.
They actually considered that to be part of the level traversal,
Yeah.
because you kind of jump forward a little bit when you do that. And there's actually one of the perks, one of the skills that you can add to your character, is to be able to do that from a further distance.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually move around the level by, repeatedly finishing off enemies that
Yeah.
way.
Glory kill, right?
Glory kill. There you
Yeah.
go. Thank you.
I love the fact that that game stresses me out. Let me put it that way. I have not finished it, Doom 2016, which might be sacrilege to say, but
Oh my gosh, you gotta.
yeah, I gotta. I have started many times, and I should finish it, but it's one of those. I love that they went with the design, and they went with it. I love when they
Yeah.
stick to their guns, no pun intended. Um,
I
that they just
appreciated that.
they really, really, really nailed the design and went with it. And
It really is like, if you took this era of gaming and you brought it into the modern era, if it had like progressed in a linear fashion,
hmm
where would it be in 2016? And
yeah,
really, that game is it.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. So we're talking about running at a low resolution to see how fast it'll run.
Um,
We'll probably crank out the FPS pretty quickly.
you know what I want to, I kind of want to go for broke a little bit.
hmm
What if we did like 800 by 600 with some AA?
Okay.
Because this is a very demanding game for the time. So
I will not win this match, I can say that, but I'm staying alive longer than I thought, so.
isn't this the easy mode?
I picked the middle one after I got
Oh.
chastised for just picking the easy one.
All right.
It's not my, internet.
Because he always goes for that speed enhancement. That's why you keep getting your butt hit.
Yeah. See, my
That's where
internet
it's
honor is at
right there.
stake now. I play most games on easy because I enjoy having a fun time. The biggest thing with that, I think, for me personally, is my gaming time is so limited that if I were to like have a hard game I'm grinding through, where the game isn't designed to be hard, if you will,
Yeah.
then I don't have a fun time. It's wasted the time I have. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't have an ego about it. I know
Mm-mm.
people do it for the achievements and stuff,
Yeah.
but I just want to. A lot of times, I just want to see the levels and all the different designs, and I want to experience the story if the game has one.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I just want to get through the game and make progress.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's kind of this movement in modern games now where it's like, we're kind of moving away from the get good philosophy of game design.
Yeah, finally. All right, 800 600.
600, yeah. You're running 32-bit color mode too.
Yeah, should we set it to 16? Someone was mentioning that too.
Nah, it's running fine.
Yeah. Ooh, that's...
So without AA, it's what, 60, 80?
Yeah. Immediately fragged there. So clearly the resolution was my problem.
Right, yeah.
Cool.
To be fair, it did get down to like the 30s when
Yeah.
you're firing a lot of and all those explosions and stuff. That's all like alpha texture blending and stuff like that. I mean, that's a lot of, especially at high res, that's very memory bandwidth intensive.
Yeah.
Workload. Oh, you missed the power up.
Oh no. There's
Not
no.
an elevator.
No. Looked like one. Dang it. Yeah, it's... I would say
The
that,
jerk.
yeah, most Camp the Spot or most LAN games, or when we do retro network with a few friends of 2, 3 machines, then, you know, Unreal Tournament is probably the first one that comes out. It just feels like the most fun one, especially with, my goodness.
So you could
Especially,
probably do two. You could probably do 2xAA and still have a playable frame rate.
yeah. All right, well, we'll quit out of this here and then set that and try again then. Um, I like the objective-based ones for with the assault and those things and defend things you do in Unreal Tournament. I think those are really fun.
Yeah.
So 2,
Unreal Tournament 2004
mm,
had a really uh had the assault mode, which they added vehicles to that game, so
yeah,
that was always pretty epic. And then you had the custom maps too, which were like crazy. Like I remember some of them were like uh they were like giant houses, so everybody was like tiny. Um
we'll do
it was a lot
one
of fun.
level down. There we go. Yeah, I like those things where they have a little more to it than just deathmatch. Deathmatch is fun, but I don't feel like, at least for me personally, holds the longevity of the experience, if you will. So
This is not a great frame rate, but
no,
it's not. I mean, for a fast-paced game like this, you probably want it a bit smoother, but it's
yeah,
not bad.
no. That's the thing. If single player experience would probably be just fine with slower, but in here, I assume you want as fast as possible. So
Well, when you were looking at that wall, it was like 60.
so wait, just walk around the game like this then, and look on the ground. Look, I'm getting 90 FPS all the time in Quake 2 or Quake 3 with my Voodoo 5s. I don't know what the problem with you guys are.
Yeah,
Look at
right.
that frame rate. Where is he?
Just go in chat rooms and forums in 1999 or 2000 actually,
Mm-hmm.
and brag about your frame rate.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're not getting that frame rate. You're like, yeah, I am.
Can I? Can we see your video capture? Oh, don't worry about it. I lost it. My dog ate my hard drive.
Right.
But it does look visually quite appealing right now with 2x on. I feel, at least on a CRT, I will say. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how well it comes across on the
This was,
capture.
I mean, you have to understand too. This was not multi-sampling AA, where
Mm-hmm.
it's just sampling the edges. It's
Oh,
sampling the whole screen.
yeah.
It's more like super sampling, so it's very intensive.
Yeah. It was an option, especially considering then if you single player games, I imagine this would be more than fine with this kind of speed, but I should probably shoot him, huh? Brown color blended in with the wall.
No, I think in this level you're actually supposed to gather livers off of pigs. I think that's the
Okay.
objective.
Yeah, I knew Quake 3 was deeper than I thought it was.
You gotta kill 30
Oh!
pigs. Nice. You gotta kill 30 pigs to get 4 livers.
Ah, yes, the WoW syndrome. Why does this pig not have feet? What the hell? You know. I played WoW a lot. My wife and I were big MMO we're big MMO players for a long time, and we played a lot of WoW, but sometimes it gets a little ridiculous, so...
Did you want to try it at 16-bit color just to see?
Yeah,
Like
we can do
maybe if
that.
the
Accept. There we go.
Wow.
Is it locked at 90 now? Or now we go.
What?
It's a dramatic difference, if so.
You can increase the resolution if you wanted to. That's high.
Oh. Alright, well, we'll kick it up to 1024 again then and see what that does. Setup. System.
You know your textures slider was not maxed out though.
Ooh, well, that's not cool.
There you go.
Well, 32-bit color. We need that smooth color.
Dang, Man, this is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you already came here. Yeah, looking at the full open area here now, it's definitely the skybox. Probably the lowest we've seen so far.
Yeah. Someone said they want to see if having textures on 16-bit color does any difference.
Oh, we can change that. Alright, any other settings we should tweak while we're in here now?
I don't know.
Suggesting trolley near texture filtering, but
That will kill performance, I
Yeah.
guarantee it.
map.
That should be good.
Alright. I have a soft spot for the I don't think other games. I'm blanking now, but you know, the Quake 3 engine used for quite a
Yeah,
bit of things, right?
Look at the skybox for a second again.
We go to the same
It did seem
spot.
to improve, didn't it?
Yeah, that's like a 10
Yeah.
plus FPS difference. Less just a fast moving skybox, so
Yeah. So I guess because it's 16-bit textures, I guess you just is taking up less space
Mhm.
in the VRAM, so maybe that's something to do with it.
that was part of the experience, right? It was like you had bought your card that you had for the era, and that you spent a lot of time tweaking it to get the best performance out, especially at, you know, LAN events and whatnot. I remember that. Finding online forums and changing one setting, and then someone claimed they found like the one setting that made a huge difference, and it didn't do anything for you, and
Yeah.
good times.
But this would have been hard to replicate on like a GeForce 2. Like that was the thing too. Like a GeForce 2 is not going to be able to do like AA with this kind of performance.
Yeah. I will not win this one either, probably, but oh well. It looks pretty.
It's really all we're here for.
Yep. I had a friend and...
We're not here to win. We're here to enjoy the scenery.
Yep.
Stop lodging rockets into my face. I'm looking at the sky.
Hey, box. I'm looking at the clouds.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Sit on the oak tree and smell the flowers. Is there a pacifist playthrough of Quake 3? No.
Is there an achievement for that? I don't know.
Yeah. Yes. Whee.
There you go. Now the best weapon to have with that is the plasma
Oh yeah.
rifle, because it increases the rate of fire at the same time as it increases your
Look,
speed. So.
I'm in the second place. But yeah, that's kind of what I tend to go more and more for that kind of holistic computer experience of the time, because that's A, most nostalgic for me, but also fun to piece together the components. Sometimes it's fun to do the overpowered, like, but in your case, like, you're specifically, you know, benchmarking or testing one component. Absolutely makes sense. I've really gotten into the, you know, kind of putting together with the kind of warts and all for that era machines. Like the P3 with the Voodoo 3 machine as well. The Dell one that I'm using now, parallel. It's really fun.
Tyler Jane Bronson says, Rick, if you beat this guy, I will donate a reward.
Oh my. Well, there goes that reward.
Still time.
Yeah. Appreciate the effort, but I'm not sure this miraculous turnaround's happening here.
You're gonna need an optical mouse to beat folks.
Yeah, my DPI is too low. Sorry, that was the causing problem.
Oh, that was shot there.
Did a flip. Trying to think of the BMW guy that crashed his BMW and he complained that tire pressure was too low. Or if you heard about that one, but the legendary when they leave Cars and Coffee. Everyone's trying to style off and you know, show their cool cars, and they inevitably crash. Many Mustangs meet their fate that way.
Yeah.
And this guy was trying to do a burnout in his BMW, but then he just ran over the median and just crashed completely. And he blamed the tire pressure in a long like post, like, "Oh no, no, the internet's gonna eviscerate you," and they did. Like, just admit what you did and call it good. Nope.
Jam says, I ran this once on a Rage XL with one memory chip. My condolences.
Played a game 3D accelerated on a Verge one time, so, you know. Boy, that speed thing really does make a difference, huh? Camp here? Come on.
This was really the, I don't want to say it's the crisis of the day, but it was really, you really need a high-end graphics card to enjoy
Yeah.
this game, really.
And I think, I mean, if you look at benchmarks from that era or and tech, so whatever testing, then this was always, like, one of them, right? I mean, it was, like, the game to test performance with.
And, you know, it was the first id game to require a 3D accelerator as well. Like, they were basically making a statement, you know, we can't run graphics like this unless you have 3D acceleration.
Yeah, which makes sense.
It's not possible with CPU alone, so.
Yeah. That's always the thing with id, right? They always want to push the envelope and see what they can accomplish or what they can run with. Oh, ran out of ammo. You're not wrong, Elios. We like just pushing the limits to see what we can accomplish. That's, I think, what's cool with... I don't know. It feels like a little bit of a lost era because, you know, you need a powerful video card to run the latest and greatest these days, but you could tweak and do a lot of stuff back then, it feels like, to really eke out performance. And then, you know, sometimes that random weird tip you found online actually worked out and you got more performance. And in most cases, you probably selected, you know, performance over image quality perhaps back in the day, especially going to LAN parties, then you wanted as much as you could get, but...
Right. Unless you're, like, you know, like a poorly skilled player and you need something to use as a scapegoat. Then...
Yep. AKA me.
Right.
Crank up the
Sorry,
AA!
my TNT2 M64 just,
Yeah, I just died, sorry.
keeps killing me.
Yeah, I think that's the end of it there. He just sent a little smiley face. You died bravely. Thanks. Appreciate it.
You're winning, right? I'm not keeping up.
No, I was doing better there for a while, but then... caught up again. Oh. The last one. Internet honor at stake, I guess. But I don't think that's happening. Yeah, there's a reason why I don't tend to gravitate towards these shooters. I'm just never good at them. But I usually prefer like a slower paced single player game. That's my forte for sure.
Yeah. I used to try as a teenager to play these games online and trying to be good and competitive, and I would get way too strung out on how poorly or how well I was doing. And,
yeah.
You know, I just, as you get older, you kind of realize, you know, you can't really enjoy games if it's based purely on your success.
Yeah, exactly. How is he running so fast backwards? That's totally unrealistic. Oh, no. Last chance there. Sorry, Tyler Jane. I almost did it. We should, one that I saw was running quite sluggish, at least when I tested, was Deus Ex. So maybe we should end on that there and see how that looks. Because this Quake, it's pretty known quantity now. So, but yeah, I was really close. So 10 versus 9, so. But it doesn't get more iconic than this, so.
No, it really doesn't.
So yeah, we have Deus Ex, I have Unreal Tournament, and well, this is what I installed here. Forsaken. Turok, I just threw it on there because it was fun. It's an older game, obviously, so. But I do want to check, and I was curious, because when I tested Deus Ex, it ran quite sluggish, at least at 2024. Now we have aliasing on, of course, probably want to disable that, but curious to see. I seem to recall someone mentioned earlier that it didn't play nice with the SLI setup, but maybe I misunderstood that. Subnautica atmosphere is really good. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
It's man, I tell you what, there's never been water rendering quite as good as that game.
Oh,
Though.
no.
Like just
Yeah, it's great. I think they really just nailed the
well, if you know, it's like if it's 90% of your environment, I guess you need to get that right. But
there's that part. Come on, it's in there. It might not like that I changed drive letter.
oh yeah, it's not going to. I don't think old games.
From the installation. Oh, cat. A Sea of Thieves I've heard as well. I haven't played that one, but. Alright, let's try this one then. But the other drive. It took over that drive letter. Oh. Yep, that's the one that it's not I didn't install from that one. I swapped the drive letters around, and I'm guessing the installation did not like it was being switched, so. Cat is becoming a friend with the desk here now, so. Oh. Well. I don't want to. I hate when the auto run kicks in after you started the game.
At least didn't crash it.
Yeah. Surprising. Considering track record so far tonight, but that's where you really can see the 16.
Sometimes Windows 98 can multitask.
Yeah, sometimes
like it's supposed to.
Mhm.
But you know.
Audio is very, very low here. I'll check the settings. Let's see. Sound. Yeah, I think I turned it down because I kept having problems when I was I think, playing with headphones directly, and boy, it was loud, so. Alright, display. So we have 1024, it's 16-bit, high, and on and on. I can just hop in and take a look at the game and see what it looks like. Easy. Yeah, shamefully, I've never finished the original Deus Ex. I feel that's also sacrilege to say. I've started many, many times and got through. I'm
in the same boat with that.
I loved Human Revolution. Really enjoyed that one. The setting was really cool and the cyberpunk vibes on it.
That's one that's been sitting on my back catalog for ages now.
Yeah, I really did enjoy that. So yeah, running it here with 1024 like this certainly is. If someone's aware of an FPS command for this one, I can turn it on, but it does not like this open area here.
Feels like it should be running better than that.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It kind of felt like it, but maybe I don't think I have it patched. So well, I think I patched. I don't remember, but
maybe it's the CPU thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought you were in Hong Kong.
I mean, 700 megahertz shouldn't be sluggish.
No.
The crossbow. Good thinking. I get the idea. I'm going to give you a map of the island. I'll see how it
pretty clean textures, so.
Scorpion says Deus Ex always ran poorly. This is normal.
Oh, okay. That's cool for today, and I think I played System Shock 2 streamed on the same machine, but then I was using the Radeon 8500, so that's definitely more powerful, but A is off, unless there's a separate setting in here. You certainly set some things down, but there's no additional advanced settings here. Colors, so it's just setting here.
Oh.
Yeah, that's it for display. So
Games of this era didn't typically have any AA settings.
yeah, rendering device. I will double check we're using Glide. I'm pretty sure it did prompt me that when I started. Yeah, software or Glide. So that's it. It's Glide for sure. High standard. Might be better to run this at 800 by 600. I did turn it off. I went into the control panel and turned it off because I knew that was not going to be, at least I would have started, so. It might have set it down now to low resolution. 640 is a little, we'll do 800 by 600. That's the
still
thing.
performs poorly, then we know it's not a graphics issue.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of stealth games. I think what drew me in on the Deus Ex, the Human Revolution, was the world building and the really cool cyberpunk setting, if you will. That's what really drew me in, not the stealth gameplay.
Yeah, stealth games.
Yeah, it's still running pretty sluggish.
Oh yeah, so it's not the graphics card; it's something else.
Yeah, must be CPU then.
Stealth games always felt like, you know, you've got to work really hard not to be seen for, and then like one little screw up, and then you have to restart that section or that level, and it's always like so much trial and error.
Yeah, exactly. And that's I stealth thank you, Cap. Stealth a little bit in Human Revolution, but mostly just hacked my way through the game, if you will. But otherwise, the pure stealth games like, you know, Thief, which admittedly are really good games and everything, I just get frustrated when you have to be perfect. Yeah, that's what's so frustrating. You're playing the game and then you get discovered and there it goes. With the mandatory stealth sections, that's the worst. I think Red Faction did that. You're supposed to go in a suit and like stealth around or something like that, and I kept dying on that over and over.
I think Deus Ex was intended to give you a choice in how you play the game, but it wasn't like plentiful with ammo and stuff. It really going Rambo was never really an option.
Now it works, but you know, you can do some kind of hybrid, if you will. I think that worked pretty well in HR or Human Revolution. But all right, thanks for stopping by, Jam.
Yep, good to see you, man.
Just like JC here, which is not an allegory for Jesus, obviously. Yeah, hostage rescue. This is how you play Deus Ex, right?
They drew first blood.
Yeah.
Is someone there?
Have you seen, there's a guy who did the video clip of, out of ammo. Oh, that's right, you gotta load. This is like a true... crossbow?
Yeah, you can put him to sleep.
I think it's harder to do when they're actually shooting you. Yellow pain. I think I was like cattle prodded 4 times in a row.
So he's got like enough tranquilizer to put out 2 horses, and you electrocuted him half to death. So
yeah, he's fine. It's like the playing Pokemon and stuff. They fainted.
It's like you got body slammed by a whale lord. I don't think you just fainted.
But no, there was a guy, I can't remember the channel, but he did like reenacted the Skyrim character movement with the he walks into a wall and it's freaking hysterical. He just like, did you hear something? And he just like starts sliding into the wall, turns around, he does like the little snap motion do when they sit down and like, who's out there? And it's just, I don't know, I just cracked up because it was so perfect on the movement that they do, the Skyrim characters. Need something?
I saw that video.
Yeah, it's pretty old, I think.
There was one recently that went around on TikTok of this person imitating a RPG, like when they talk to you, and they have that like repeating animation where they're just kind of like rocking a little bit, or like, you know, like they're not like sitting. No characters in an RPG ever sit completely still.
Oh
right?
no.
They're always like this like rocking motion over and over. And when you see a person in real life doing that, it's just hilarious.
Yeah, it really is. It does not translate that well, so especially now to Skyrim, things like that. Those games have been out for so long,
This
but
one's a goner.
yeah, that went really well. Apparently, guns blazing in this one is not a good choice. And there ends our story of a JC. Puddle on the floor. Must have been the wind. I did play Skyrim on PlayStation VR for a while, and the VR experience was pretty cool. So I'd love to try it out on PC sometime. PlayStation can only do so much, of course.
They're actually just today, although it's technically the next day now.
Mm-hmm.
They released the update of Mist,
Oh yeah, I saw that.
which is real time 3D graphics, and it's got VR support, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool. Cool that they dropped those things out of the blue. They don't have any, lead up to it, and it's awesome. Just like, here it is. I think the Quake one released the same way. It just dropped out of the blue, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. I think you know when they did the conference or whatever, it was just like, here's this thing,
Yeah.
go download it.
Oh, I love Viva La Dirt League. They're just geniuses in their video productions. Um, I mostly see them on Facebook, I think, but just like it's a YouTube series as well, right? With um, reenactment, or not reenactment, but funny scenarios of like, vendor sellback. They make an episode of that, and like, selling
Yeah,
all the stuff to a vendor running out of money, and I don't know. They're funny. Boy, it's getting late, isn't it? Very late where you are. I think you're an hour ahead of me, so
yeah. It's this one after 1 a.m.
yeah. Do a little Turok, and then probably call it. That's totally not in the
I
primary.
hope it can run.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's loud. Thank you, Turok. We turn on the A for this guy.
Yeah, I think you could probably crank it if you wanted to without problems.
That's very loud. So what is this use then? I assume it's Direct3D, right? The glide? Because I never saw the thing trigger, so
I don't know exactly.
I'll change it on both. Max power. Divert energy to Turok. We get that little flickering at the bottom again. I'm gonna have to reset it, but
Fine, it's the last game.
yeah. I don't think you have any settings in this game, right? It's just freak hand.
Yeah, you either run it or you don't.
Yep. It's console based after all. Yep. Red blood. Green blood. No blood. Well, that's no point. Oops, not load.
Can you really say you killed the enemy if they're not squirting blood everywhere?
Yeah, this is the one that has the, like, neck shots where they start squirting and walking around, isn't it?
Yeah, you can knife them, slit their throats.
Mm-hmm.
At draw distance.
Monkey. Yeah, that's always been the thing with the Turok, right? Too low on the volume here now. Want to miss out on the jungle action sounds.
I love it. It's like every jungle animal ever has a sound effect playing at the same time.
Yeah. He just... There he is. He just died. All right. That's like, it was really, really cool for the N64 and everything, but the port is probably a little lackluster, I suppose.
Everything looks smooth.
Yeah. Max setting. Max as we can. Yeah, there we go. The quite graphic for being Nintendo. I mean, it's not Nintendo
Right.
made it, but quite the pistol. Yeah, it's pretty. That's like that, like blood squirting neck thing is pretty. They're dying in basically one shot, which makes sense, I guess. 2 shots. Checkpoint. By the bow.
It's like, is it a rock or is it foliage? Either way, it's a rectangle.
Yep, there you go. All the same. That is crazy. Just like I play, ultra modern games so little. Cutting edge games like Cyberpunk is probably the most like modern game I played recently, and my machine clearly was struggling. Um, but watching modern rendering techniques and stuff like that just blows me away still.
Oh, especially if you're like one of us that still goes back to play these old
Yeah.
games, you really do appreciate how far we've come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopping from this to like, the new Call of Duty Vanguard or whatever, like it looks so realistic, it's just ridiculous.
And this looks primitive, but like, I mean, it's actually hard to fathom the number of calculations it takes
Mm-hmm.
to even do a game of this
Yeah.
level. Every frame, all that trigonometry and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and all the texture mapping.
Yeah.
It's very calculation intensive, and and then you look at a modern game, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's like a million times more
I
advanced.
know, it's
Like it's,
ridiculous.
it's far beyond human comprehension.
Eating Wolfbane, welcome. Oh. Oh, there's the climbing thing. I was like, why is my view changing? There we go. Look at that skybox. Have you played Star Fox Adventures on GameCube? Like
Uh, yeah, I am familiar with that.
okay. I never finished it, which sounds very shocking. There are very few games I do finish, but I remember playing that, and I was supposed to get that cube thing, right? Oh,
Yeah, you got it.
oh, Cap's walking.
It's a like a level key.
Yeah, I'm terrible with this game. Is there a map on this one? Yes, there is a map. Huzzah! Um, this was just to get the shotgun, right? Or is there a way out of here? I was gonna say, in that game, I think when you pick up something, you get a little, little music and whatever every time. It's like you found a
Yeah,
seed, you found a thing, and that's what I was.
Star Fox would just be
Yep.
like,
Every time. Come on, everyone say it. Let it go.
I call him Star Fox. He's Fox McCloud before somebody corrects me.
Yep. I was like, everyone calling a console Nintendo in the 80s, right?
Did you see the leak of Dinosaur Planet for N64 at all?
Yeah. Yeah, I watched the videos of that. It was really fascinating to watch. And
That's so cool. And to see like the original models before they
yeah.
were, when it was Saber instead
Oh.
of Fox, and
Yeah. It was really neat. It's a good, I mean, I feel like a missed opportunity not to continue that after the fact, but yeah, it was clearly quite a
it
good
was
game.
definitely shaping up to be probably the most advanced N64 game.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, Rare at that time was just the kings of that console, and
Oh, yeah.
their games look so incredibly advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look at
Oh, come on.
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Oh, yeah.
Like Conker has cast a shadow that's not just a blob; it's actual like projection of the shape of the
Mm-hmm.
character. And you look at like Perfect Dark, and I mean their games visually were a level above everyone else.
Absolutely. Platforming in 3D games of the console era. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you really have to wait till that very last second.
Yeah. We talked in the past how important a satisfying shotgun is in a game, and this is so satisfying, so.
Yeah,
You were
it
talking
really
about the
is.
Doom 3 one was just like shooting a cinder block, right? It was just like clink.
Like plunk, plunk. Oh,
Yeah.
did I
Oh,
drop a
come on.
wrench or did I shoot my gun?
Yeah. You know, that meaty sound, so. And I think that's something that watching a lot of the new boomer shooters coming out. There's one called Produce coming, I think.
Oh
Which
yeah, I've heard of
follows,
that.
yeah, and the weapons look ultra satisfying there, which is super important.
Yeah, the one I've been playing is a medieval
Oh yeah.
and has some crazy weapons. One of them is like you have this like wizard staff that summons planets, and it's like a rocket launcher basically for the game, but you're shooting like miniaturized planets.
That's cool.
And the game has this like it's like almost like an adrenaline mode, but like you kill enough enemies and gather their souls, and you can go into this I forget what they call it, but it's a powered up mode.
Hmm.
So all whatever weapon you have equipped gets powered up for a while. And so that weapon goes from shooting planets to shooting suns when,
That's
when it's
awesome.
powered up. And they're like all different states of like, being a young star or an old star or, whatever. But you shoot them and it hits the enemy and goes supernova. Like it's,
Oh, that's awesome. I love the boomer shooter category because I can usually just go with it and just be ridiculous, you know.
yeah, really.
Ah, monkeys. Shooting arrows over the monkeys.
Yeah, that's right. This game did have an auto shotgun that you could get later on.
Teleporting dinosaurs, really?
Yeah, they have no qualms about spawning enemies right in front of you.
Oh, you pretty much have to with that draw distance. Heyo!
I feel like that would be the perfect cover. Like, what's the excuse? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need an enemy to spawn right next to you because you can just have them like
Stand there.
appear
Like
from
that.
appear from the mists. Yes. All right, here's the bane of your existence. Nice.
Save game to press a button. Why do I have to push a button? You already know I want to save. I pushed the save thing, didn't I? Yeah, that's
Open
pretty...
the console and type save.
Yeah. Ah,
That was weird how it stuttered there.
yeah. One grenade. Whoa. Yeah, I think I opened the weapon wheel. I'm not sure if it's something different as far as the rendering there. Oh. Oh. I think this is how we met a demise earlier in another game, wasn't it? Hey.
There you go. You learned.
Very little, but enough. The slow turn speed is really throwing me off here. He's just like, dude, oh, I wonder if there's a dinosaur biting my ankles right now.
Wasn't sensitivity an option at least?
Maybe. Um,
Yeah.
there we go. Good call. It's a little faster now. Also, the explosive shot. I mean, really, they just spent a lot of time creating those death animations. Probably ate up a lot of memory, too. But I started to think to myself, like, if you had this machine, right? Or this era of machine, you have access to a lot of mid-90s quite cool experiences. So it's not within outside realm possibility of, you know, playing a lesser demanding game like this.
I don't know. Like, if you enjoyed a game, of course you would go back and
Mm-hmm.
play it. And back then, too, you have to understand, like, in the very early 2000s, late 90s, we didn't have, like, 12 games a month releasing.
No.
Like, every time a game came out, it was, like, a big deal, and you'd read about it in a magazine, and,
Yeah.
you know, it just, you didn't have, like, 10,000 different game studios churning out games, both indie games and big studios, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's not like it is today where you're spoiled for choice, like
Yeah.
paralyzed with choice, so you don't know what
I
to
know.
play, so you play nothing.
Yep, exactly.
Um, but back then, yeah, you just had like your handful of games and you played them to death.
Mm-hmm.
And if they kicked your ass, then you just kept playing them until you were good because you didn't have anything else.
Yep. Or you might find it in a bargain bin, too, or something, right? So...
Mhm.
Oh man, the days of going and looking at bargain bin big box games. Yeah.
So yes, Wolfbane, it is a little bit overkill to use a Voodoo 5 on Turok. However, we are using 4 times anti-aliasing, so
You can really
we're
tell.
we're not completely Not using the power of the card here.
I am, I'm using the keyboard, just straight up playing it like Doom. Figured it's a controller thing, right? But there's probably a thing to look up and down, but...
Yeah, there was a slider for vertical control, so...
Yeah, probably in there, so... Ooh. At least it has a little automatic, like, look down when you jump, so that's a pretty cool feature, but still hard to
Yeah.
position in 3D space.
When you're playing this on a Nintendo 64, like, you're not gonna have the luxury of, controlling your look at the same time as you
Yeah.
move around.
Spiritual...
There
Whoa,
were...
trippy!
Oh, yep. You took the LSD.
Yep.
It's a cool thing, though. Cool effect.
Yeah, at least he thinks he's invulnerable now. Curious out if he actually is. I can see colors!
As long as you believe in yourself.
Look at this! Yeah.
Oh, what is this? Bullet time before the Matrix?
Yeah,
What?
that's... Oh, wait, that's illegal. Wow. Oh, recycle the Voodoo 5? That's rough. That's the thing, we're all thrown out or got rid of stuff that we regret, or family members or whatever, you know. That just...
Yeah, that hurts, yeah.
Whoa. Oh, look, platforming.
Ooh, and they're even further apart this time.
Hopped up on LSD, though.
They're hopped up on those rock formations, too.
Yeah. Haha. Huzzah. I have to ask, Brain Drain, is that the Swedish LAN party? Did they get that right? I should probably be able to aim down, huh? Ah.
Ooh, so the system that the Voodoo 5 was in was a Falcon Northwest rig, like the classic beige one
Oh, wow.
says. So the whole system got thrown out.
Oh, no. Oh, that's brutal. Very nice. I would love to go. I am from Sweden myself, but I don't get back very often anymore. I would love to go to that brain drain, but grabbing a machine and flying over. Although my old childhood Pentium 3500 is still at my parents' place. Maybe I can rig that up and have it as a Sweden ready to go land game.
Pretty cool. Tyler says, actually, the N64 controls were pretty robust, and you could look and move. Map C buttons for forward, back, and use a stick for full
Oh.
look. Very advanced for the period. There was a couple games that could do that, like GoldenEye 64, because again, it was an early game on consoles to do an FPS. It gave you like
I'm gonna drown.
area and so you had, of course, famously you could use two controllers in GoldenEye, but one of my favorite FPS games on the Nintendo 64 is the port of Quake 2. They had to redesign the levels for the most part, so it's not a straight up port of the PC game because that would have been way too much in N64. But like, you could configure that the controls as well for that one, so you would have your C buttons to strafe and move forward and backwards, and then you could use the analog stick to look, or you could use the D-pad either way, and once you get used to it, it's actually pretty modern feeling.
That's severe. You can tell this is a analog joystick based up and down look.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to swim down. No, jump, space.
Is there a crouch?
Control shoots, which is what throws me off a lot.
Is it C or?
Nope. Has to be special. Weapon is changed between A and Z. There's no button that will do this? Oh, that's the view. Aha! Whoop. In case we need more performance, that's an option. Huh. Yeah, I'll try just about every key.
Wolfbane says the only voodoo I don't have is a 4500, completely hopeless to find. And yeah, they're even more.
Ah,
Oh, there you go.
thank you, Tyler. That was makes sense.
Um, they're even harder to find than the Voodoo 5, so
Yeah,
they tend to be even more expensive.
go
Well, not
bad.
maybe more expensive, but like $300 or so for a Voodoo 4 is it's just too much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's half of a Voodoo 5 basically, so
That's more for the completionist and more just having it in general, but
right.
the bad passing on that one. But I had to make a choice. Time at least. We'll see. I know where I'm going now.
I mean, you can't honestly say you're missing out on anything having this
No.
card as opposed to the other one. I mean, if you really want that experience, you just disable one of the chips.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I hate this part. This maze.
I have no memory of this place. Checkpoint.
Nothing
Checkpoint.
like nothing like a maze where all the walls look the damn same.
Yep, and it's not even showing up on the... Ah! Aim down sights. That's one sturdy bug.
It's hard to beetle.
Ah. Oh, I think my internet might be having a little trouble here too. Seeing red here on the stream, but hopefully it's keeping up at least for a little bit. But we'll call it for Turok here pretty soon, I think. Oh wow! I'll say those are probably going to be increasing in value. Explosive shotgun shells.
If anything, the nostalgia train kind of started with the Voodoo too, because that was
Yeah.
undoubtedly 3DFX's most successful, popular line of graphics cards.
Oh yeah.
It kind of peaked with the Voodoo 2.
Mm-hmm.
That also means they're the easiest to find. So
That's true. Yeah. And mine I got from I think it was a work, like bin. They had old stuff in it, and then they just like, oh, you want to go through this box? Sure. And I wasn't even that into retro yet at that time, so cat, nope. That's right, random animal sounds. So we have the key.
yeah, I found my it says beetles are easier to kill with a knife.
But I have a gun. Matter of principle now.
I found my Voodoo 2s in like junk lots on eBay, so we'll just be like, here, a lot of parts. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I think I see a Voodoo 2 in there, so I'm gonna go ahead and buy this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're hardy cards, like they can
Yeah.
survive quite a bit of beating, and they pop up in like recycling centers a lot.
Yeah. I don't know where I am now. Wow. Oh, hey, cat. Hey, cat. She's kneading my lap now, and it's like, that hurts.
You didn't need that artery.
Nah. Fine. You got a still impressive detail, and the fact that it ran on the N64 with all that extra... Need to get over there somehow.
Yeah, and Turok 2 and Turok 3 really are huge upgrades to this.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the frame rate isn't as smooth on the N64, but
Yeah. That's just a general statement. Aha.
the first game ran pretty good though.
Yeah, Beetle's gonna get me.
I would hope. I mean, you can only see like 2 feet in front of you at all
Yeah.
times.
Alright, fine, kill me. There you go. Turok was killed by the beetle, like we all know how the story ends. Oh, I'm alive again somehow. So LSD again. See, it was all a LSD fueled dream. He never actually died.
I am Turok.
I have amazing abs. Oh boy. Anyways, a lot of fun games. I think that for me, the biggest bang for your buck is really this, late P2, early P3, or even more powerful P3. This kind of game, this kind of computer, because you get so many things you can do with it, so many games you can
Yeah,
experience. Especially now,
you
this
get
is.
that ISIS slot as well. You can play some DOS, like later
Mhm.
DOS games if you wanted to, and
Yeah, no problem. It's just so many things you can install on it. I look behind me on the games I have and scanning through it. A lot of them can be installed on this kind of machine. So, um, yeah, there'll be more on the Voodoo 5. So I don't necessarily have a full video in the pipeline, but I might do some benchmarking test or just some quick video or something. But
but now you have the option.
yes, exactly. That's right. Oh, hi, Oz. Yeah, sorry, I'm not gonna. Sorry, you're arriving late, but I don't think we're gonna repeat the whole stream. But it'll be on YouTube here right after we click stop stream. So,
Yes, you can hit the
um,
replay button.
yeah, exactly. But no, it's fun to do these co-host things. So, Pixel and I, I'm sure
Yeah,
we'll
for
be doing
sure.
more in the future. I'd love to have other people on too. Maybe we can drag Sucre in for a three people or something too. So,
Three
uh,
way.
yeah, exactly. I didn't want to say it, but you said it. So, oh,
Yeah,
there goes the
I go.
monetization.
Yep, I go for the low hanging fruit.
Yep, exactly. So, but no, super fun. I appreciate everyone hanging out. Been there for a long time now, but all hail to Voodoo 5. Just in time for my
Yes.
bandwidth to be freaking out. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's just like I have Cox's internet. That's the only option I have here. Like my friend living up the
Oh,
street has got fiber. I can't get it. I can see his house and he's got gigabit. I'm like,
that's how it
yeah,
goes.
yeah. But Kitty,
Yeah,
that's
it
gonna.
was it was awesome to be able to do this again,
Yeah,
and to be able to talk about one of the most important graphics cards in 3DFX's history, if
yeah.
not the history of 3D acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Really
happy
fun
to be
card.
here.
Yeah, and we will stop by again sometime. And I'm very tired because it's late. Oh my goodness. But thanks a lot, everyone, for stopping by. And I'll see you next week if nothing else, or on Twitter, Discord, all that good stuff. All right.
All
Have a
right,
good
thank
night,
you.
guys.